Hello and welcome guys. Make yourselves comfortable and enjoy. Don't forget to go and support the original author. He put a lot of effort into this. Well, let's continue now. This is Necromancer of the Shadows, chapter 326. Evan stood in front of a 10 meters tall black iron gate. Just finished the monster inside it, and I can advance to C rank without any problem. Evan muttered and stepped forward. He extended one of his hands and pushed the giant door. Even though the door was very heavy looking, it opened without any problems when Evan pushed it. When the door was opened, Evan wasn't able to see anything inside. But he wasn't bothered by this and stepped inside. When he stepped inside the gate, he felt his surroundings turning blurry, and soon he found himself standing in a big hall room. The room was around 10,000 square meters in size, and its ceiling was 100 meters high. The whole room was dimly lit, but just as he was teleported inside the room, tens of torches lit up, lighting up the whole room. Looks like a good place to advance to the C rank, Evan muttered after looking at the whole room. Suddenly he felt movement behind him and turned around. When he turned around, he finally saw the boss monster of the Monster Paradise dungeon. There is no fixed boss monster for the Monster Paradise dungeon, and every hunter who successfully reaches the boss room will face a random monster. Looks like my luck is quite good, Evan muttered when he saw the appearance of the boss monster. In front of him stood a 4 meters tall brown-colored muscular monster. The monster had the head of a bull, and 2 long horns were coming out from both sides of its head. It was holding a giant axe in its hands, and it was glaring at Evan with its deep yellow eyes. The monster in front of him was actually a minotaur. When I read about Monster Paradise dungeon yesterday, it was mentioned that even among random boss monsters, Minotaur is the most powerful monster that a person can encounter in the Monster Paradise dungeon, Evan said, as looked at the Minotaur who started walking towards him. The Minotaur was at the B+ rank, but since it was a boss monster, its original powers were definitely far stronger than a normal B+ rank monster. If it was any other hunter, he would have found himself in a very difficult situation because of the Minotaur. But Evan was actually happy that he encountered a Minotaur. Now, after advancing to the next rank, I can have a rare shadow undead of a Minotaur, Evan muttered as Necros appeared behind him. Just as Necros appeared, the eyes of Minotaur became serious, and it lifted its axe. Evan didn't care about the action of the Minotaur, and glanced at Necros. Shadow possession. Suddenly Necros turned into wisps of black smoke and rushed towards his body. The wisps entered his body and were absorbed by his monarch's core. The next second, his height started to increase, and reached 210 centimeters from the initial 185 centimeters. A red eye that looks similar to Necros' eye appeared at the middle of his forehead. His body shape also changed and became more muscular. His aura also skyrocketed and reached to B+ rank. Boom dash. Feeling the dangerous aura coming from Evan, the Minotaur pressed its hooves on the ground and shot towards him without waiting anymore. In an instant, it arrives before Evan and slashed at his head with its giant axe. Rumble! Exclamation point. The air was split open, and even the ground started to shake because of the sheer force behind the axe. Even though Evan's height increased to 210 centimeters after merging with Necros, he was still looking like a small child in front of 4 meters tall Minotaur. Evan felt a huge pressure boring down on his body when Minotaur slashed its axe at him. But feeling the huge pressure, Evan just smiled and lifted one of his hands. Wind circled around his hand, covering his entire arm, and at the same time, a blue layer of mana also appeared around his body, increasing his physical power even more. He still can't use skills and mana reinforcement at the same time, if he is doing many things at the same time, but currently, since he was just standing at the same place without doing much, it wasn't a problem for him to use both of them at the same time. Seeing Evan didn't try to dodge its attack, a hideous smile appeared on Minotaur's face. Boom dash. A loud booming sound echoed out. The floor of the room was split open as the debris flew everywhere. A dust cloud rose as the walls of the rooms continued to shake because of the powerful shockwaves. Just as the axe came into contact with Evan's hand, the hideous smile on Minotaur's face disappeared, and its eyes opened wide. Even though there was a very powerful impact when its axe came into contact with Evan's hand, it can feel that the momentum of its axe completely stopped after it came into contact with Evan's hand. Suddenly a powerful gust of wind came out of nowhere and blew away the dust cloud covering the area. When the dust cloud disappeared, The body of Minotaur shook as it saw Evan still standing in the same place, holding its large axe with just one of his hands. Green wind and blue mana were covering his entire body, and after stopping the axe, he didn't even take a step back. Seeing Evan was completely fine, the Minotaur immediately tried to back away, but when it tried to pull back its axe, it found that it wasn't even budging from its place. Crack. Suddenly it heard a cracking sound, and its beastly eyes opened wide, when it saw a large crack appear on the blade of the axe. Whoosh dash. The green and blue aura around Evan suddenly burst forth, and he tightened his grip on the blade of the axe. Crack, crack, crack. The eyes of the Minotaur trembled, and it immediately decided to back away, leaving its axe behind. Crack dash. But just as it thought about leaving its axe behind, it was horrified to see Evan completely crush the blade of the axe. After breaking the axe, without giving Minotaur any chance, Evan took a step forward, appearing in front of it like he just used teleportation. Boom dash. A booming sound along with the sound of bone cracking rang out as the 4 meters tall giant Minotaur was sent flying backwards like a broken kite. Boom dash. COUGH*. The Minotaur crashed against the wall of the whole room and coughed out a mouthful of blood. There was a deep fist mark on its chest area. Whoosh dash. Even before Minotaur's body dropped to the ground after crashing against the wall, a large amount of mana flooded inside the third eye of Evan, and he shot a red beam of light towards the Minotaur. Ugh dash. A scream filled with agony reverted into the whole room, as the red beam of light struck the Minotaur right at the place where Evan punched earlier, making a deep hole there. Evan continued to pour more mana into the eye he gained after merging with Necros, and soon the beam of red light passed through its outer defense, destroying Minotaur's heart. The life aura of the Minotaur instantly disappeared as soon as its heart was destroyed. When Evan saw the Minotaur was dead, he stopped using Necro's skill and walked towards it calmly. After coming near its body, Evan put it away in his shadow storage. Without caring about how easily he killed the Minotaur, Evan looked at the portal and a platform beside it that appeared after he killed the Minotaur. He ignored the portal and walked toward the platform. On the platform he saw a dagger. My reward for clearing the dungeon, Evan muttered and put it away without checking its details. Now putting away the dagger, Evan looked back at the room, and his eyes shined like stars. El can finally advance without bothering about anything. Chapter 327. Evan tapped his feet on the ground, and a bed came out of his shadow storage. Since there is a possibility that he might faint once again while advancing to C rank, he brought a bed with him to sleep comfortably. Taking out the bed, he sat down on it and summoned Elijah and his other shadow undeads. After ordering them to protect him if something happens while he is advancing, he took out some cores from his shadow storage. All of the cores that he took out were shadow cores, because unlike his monarch core, which can absorb 100% energy from any core, his prime core can absorb 100% energy only from shadow cores. Let's start. Evan muttered and picked up a B rank shadow core. He channeled his mana into the core and started to refine it. Compared to his monarch core, which can refine the energy of cores instantly, his prime core was obviously very slow. It took Evan 20 minutes just to refine one B rank core, but he wasn't surprised by this, because he already expected something like this will happen. It might look like his refining speed was not fast enough, but this was actually very fast when compared to other normal hunters. The refining speed of someone's prime core depends on their rank. If a normal D+ rank hunter tries to refine a B rank core, it will take him at least 1 hour if not longer. Moreover, there is a chance that his prime core might even get damaged because of trying to refine such a high rank core. Evan was able to refine the B rank core so quickly only because of the mutation of his prime core. After Evan finished refining the core, he noticed some of the small cracks that were left on his prime core also recovered. Without wasting any time, he picked up another B rank core and continued to refine it. Slowly but surely his prime core started to move towards C rank. Evan had a total of 13 shadow cores. He got all of these cores during the monster tide. Before the monster tide, he was not able to collect any shadow cores. Among these 13 shadow cores, 8 would be rank, while 5 would be plus rank. In 2.5 hours, Evan absorbed all of the B rank shadow cores. After absorbing all the B rank cores, Evan picked up the B plus rank core and started to refine it. Unlike the B rank core that he refined without any problem, Evan felt a little uncomfortable while refining the B+ rank core because of its potent energy. But even though it was uncomfortable, Evan noticed that his prime core was still able to refine its energy, so he didn't stop. It took Evan more than 40 minutes to completely refine the B+ rank core. For the next few hours, he continued to refine B+ rank shadow cores. Suddenly, when he refined his 4th B+ rank shadow core, a notification appeared before him. You have learned a skill, Shadow Shroud. Evan, who was about to pick up his last B+ rank shadow core, was taken aback when he saw the notification, but soon a surprised expression appeared on his face. I didn't expect the 2% chance of getting a skill from a shadow core will trigger here. Evan muttered and looked at the details of the skill. Shadow Shroud. The power to create a protective barrier or cloak of shadows. This skill forms a shield of shadow around the user, providing defense against physical and magical attacks. A barrier type skill, huh? Evan muttered and was about to go back to refining the cores when another notification appeared before him. Shadow Wings and Shadow Shroud skills are compatible with each other. Do you wish to merge both skills into one? Yes/no. Evan was a bit surprised when he saw this notification, but when he remembered the details of Shadow Wings, he nodded his head. Shadow Wings. Ash, create 2 wings of shadow using mana. The more mana you use on the wings, the faster you will be able to fly. The wings also have a great defense, and can be used as a shield to weaken or stop an attack. Those wings can also be used as a shield, so it is no wonder both of these skills can be merged together. Evan muttered and chose no for the time being. Currently, he just wanted to advance to the C rank. He will merge the skills later, after finishing the task at hand. After choosing no, Evan picked up the last B+ rank shadow core and started to refine it. After he finished refining it, he checked his prime core and saw it just need little more energy before it can break through to the C rank. Just like Monarch core, this prime core also became Snorlax after mutating. Evan said with a twitching mouth and took out a few more cores from his shadow storage. This time he took out ice and wind cores, due to his wind manipulation and ice chain skills. Because of having these skills, he can absorb 50% energy of both ice and wind type cores. A hunter can normally absorb 30% of the core's energy, but if he has a skill related to the same element as the core, he can absorb 50% of the energy from it. After taking out the cores, Evan started to refine them. 1 hour later, Evan picked up his 4th core and examined his prime core. This should be enough, he said, and started to refine the core. Halfway through, while refining the core, Evan felt his prime core stopped absorbing the energy from the core. Finally, Evan quickly put away the half-refined core and focused on his prime core. The next second, surrounding mana started to rush toward his body, and his prime core started to advance to the C rank. Chapter 328. Whoosh! Exclamation point. Evan felt his heart beating like a war drum when the mana from the surroundings rushed towards his body. A mana vortex started to form above Evan's head as a large amount of mana gathered around him. For some reason, Evan was feeling very nervous, since he didn't know what would happen once his prime core reached to C rank. Elijah, Necros and Eclipse watched everything with curious eyes without moving from their places. Will I get a second class? Thought Evan as his prime core continued to absorb mana from the vortex. The process lasted for around 3 minutes before the vortex above his head started to disappear. The mana absorption rate of his prime core also slowed down, and he felt the wall stopping his prime to reach C rank slowly breaking. After 1 minute, the vortex above his head completely disappeared, and his prime core also stopped absorbing mana from the surroundings. Boom dash. Suddenly his prime core released a vast amount of energy. The energy moved inside his body, nourishing it and increasing his mana capacity. After mutating, each time his prime core advances to the next rank, it increases Evan's physical powers exceptionally. This time was the same. When his prime core released the energy, Evan felt all the cells in his body were being filled with power. His mana capacity was increased as well, but compared to the improvement in his physical power, it was worth nothing. This feeling is the best, Evan can't help but say out loud when he felt his body being nourished by the energy. He felt so comfortable that he even forget about the fact that his prime core already advanced to the C rank. Elijah and his other shadow undeads even thought that he is about to fall asleep because of how comfortable his face was looking. Luckily, a notification appeared in front of him before he could fall asleep. Your Prime Core advanced to the C rank. All the sleepiness that Evan was feeling instantly disappeared when he saw the notification. After reading the notification, he waited for some time wanting to know what will happen now that his Prime Core is at C rank. More information please. Evan can't help but say out loud when nothing happened even after waiting for 1 minute. He waited for a few more seconds, but nothing happened. Don't tell me I am not going to get anything since I already have a class, Evan said, feeling this script is completely wrong. Just as he said that, a notification finally appeared in front of him. You have unlocked your class, Abomincer. Even before he could read the notification, Evan felt a vast amount of knowledge started flowing in his head. But just as the knowledge started to flow into his head, a strange energy erupted from his surroundings and covered his entire body, stopping the flow of the knowledge he was receiving. A confused expression appeared on Evan's face, because he could feel a strange energy covering his body, stopping the knowledge he was receiving. What is happening? Evan muttered, feeling confused. He looked at the notification he received earlier and raised an eyebrow. Abomincer, he said, and looked at its details. Abomincer. As an Abomincer, you are a spellcaster who delves into the ancient and forbidden arts of shadow magic. Now you have a deep understanding of the intricate nature of shadows, allowing you to manipulate and control darkness in profound ways. Evan felt excited after reading the details. Even though he didn't know much about Abomincer, he could tell that this class was also quite powerful. Does it mean now I have 2 classes? Evan muttered and tried to open his status window. But when he tried to open it, he found he can't open his status window for some reason. Why it is not opening? Evan tried to open his status window for few more times, but he still wasn't able to open it. What the hell is going on? Evan stood up from the bed and said, feeling confused. Is this because of this strange energy? Evan thought, examining the strange energy which was covering his entire body. What is this energy? And what is the knowledge that this energy is trying to stop? Muttered Evan, feeling a terrible feeling rising in his heart. He focused on the knowledge that the energy was stopping, and found it was actually the knowledge about Abomincer. Evan tried to use his mana to remove the energy which was covering his body. But when Evan tried to use his mana, an expression of disbelief appeared on his face. I can't use my mana. Evan tried to use his skills, but found the energy which was covering his body locked his mana as well. Just what the F***K is going on here? Suddenly few more notifications started to appear in front of Evan. You already have a class. You can't get a second class. The law of the universe is reacting because of your existence. When Evan read the second notification, for some reason he felt his body turning cold. Suddenly the energy covering him seeped inside his body, and Evan found he can't move anymore. Master. Feeling something was wrong, Elijah, Necros and Eclipse instantly moved towards him. But just as they reached near him, the same strange energy burst forth from Evan's body, blowing away Elijah and others to the other end of the hall room. Half of the Necro's body was completely destroyed, one of Elijah's arms disappeared, while Eclipse lost 2 of its legs after being blown away by the energy. Evan tried to move his mouth, wanting to say them to stay away from him, but found he can't even move his mouth. Evan started to panic, feeling something terrible is about to happen. And the very next moment, another notification flashed before his eyes that sent a chill running down his spine. You will be annihilated by the law of the universe. Chapter 329. Hit him with your bowl. Outside of the Monster Paradise dungeon, the man in his late 60s who was trying to stop Evan earlier shouted while munching peanuts. The man's gaze was fixed on his phone screen, and he was watching the newly released movie, Bagger and the Beast. Currently, the bagger was fighting against the beast, and like a loyal fan, the old man was cheering for the bagger, asking him to hit the beast with his coin-filled bowl. Crackle! Crackle! At this moment the sky above the Monster Paradise dungeon started to turn dark and gloomy. The old one shifted his gaze from the phone and looked up at the sky. Seeing the strange black clouds forming above the dungeon, a frown appeared on his face. Then the man suddenly took out a large umbrella from his storage ring. He opened the umbrella and set it up beside his chair. After setting up the umbrella, the old man admired himself for a moment before sitting down once again and continuing to watch the movie. Even heaven can't stop the old man from watching Bagger and the Beast. If heaven tries to stop him, he will just set up an umbrella. Above the Monster Paradise dungeon, the dark cloud continued to expand, and in less than a minute covered an area of around 1 kilometer. Crackle! At this moment a bolt of lighting flashed in the dark gloomy clouds. But unlike normal purple lighting, this flash of lighting was golden in color. The old one watching the movie didn't feel anything when the golden lightning flashed. But there were many people inside Astarte City who felt a chill running down their spine as soon as that golden lighting flashed inside the cloud. Sebastian looked in the direction of the Monster Paradise dungeon. His hand, which were holding some papers, were shaking, his purple eyes were filled with dread, and his entire body was drenched in cold sweat. What the F***K is this feeling? Sebastian cried inwardly because he never felt something like this. Suddenly his face turned serious. Dark Guild is attacking the city just like what they did in the Naflium city. Wanting to know what is happening, Sebastian stood up and left the room through the window, flying towards the Monster Paradise dungeon. Sebastian was not the only one who was feeling like this. Inside the Astarte Academy, an old man who looks to be around 80 years old also looked in the direction of the Monster Paradise dungeon. While sweating buckets, his brown eyes were filled with dread, and there was a serious expression on his face. The old man was Nathan, the principal of the Astarte Academy, and an S-rank hunter. Just like Sebastian, Nathan also left the academy and flew towards the Monster Paradise dungeon. Like Sebastian and Nathan, a woman with long red hair and red eyes also flew towards the Monster Paradise dungeon. The woman was looking around 30 years old, and just like Sebastian and Nathan, she was also an S-rank hunter. The woman was the guildmaster of the Raven Black Guild. It is a gold rank guild, and its influence in Astarte City is just below the Silver Star Guild. Even though they were pretty far away from the Monster Paradise dungeon, it didn't take long for them to arrive there. Nathan was the first one to arrive near the Monster Paradise dungeon. After reaching there, when he looked at the black gloomy cloud above the Monster Paradise dungeon, his instincts roared like never before and warned him to stay away from the cloud. Just what is this black cloud? Nathan muttered, looking at the black cloud from the distance. Soon Sebastian also reached there, and he was also shocked after seeing the black cloud. Do you think someone is targeting Astarte City, just like what happened in Naflium City? Sebastian immediately asked Nathan after coming there. He wasn't surprised after seeing him since he already expected to see him there. Hearing Sebastian, Nathan pondered for a moment before shaking his head. I cannot feel any mana fluctuations from these clouds, so this is definitely not a skill, but a natural phenomenon, Nathan said. What kind of natural phenomenon is this that can even make my soul shudder just by looking at it? Sebastian asked while looking at the gloomy black clouds. Nathan did not respond to his question, because he also did not see anything like this despite being alive for more than 100 years. Whoosh! At this moment a red light flashed, and the woman with long red hair and red eyes also appeared beside Nathan and Sebastian. When the woman saw the black cloud, she was also shocked. She was about to ask Nathan and Sebastian what the dark cloud is, when another golden lightning flashed through the dark cloud. Crackle! Nathan and others felt a chill running down their spine when they saw the golden lightning, and felt fear which came from the very depth of their souls. That lightning. Margaret, the red-hair woman said in a shaky voice. Sebastian and Nathan did not pay any attention to her, because they were also equally shocked. Even though they had seen that lightning just for a split second, they were sure that they would definitely die if they tried to touch that golden lightning. Crackle, 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 crackle. All three of them were still shocked after seeing one lightning arc, but suddenly tens of golden lightning arcs started to flash inside the black cloud. Seeing tens of golden flashes of lightning, their eyes opened wide. Quick, back away from here, Nathan shouted, seeing tens of golden lightning arcs. Hearing Nathan, both Sebastian and Margaret reacted quickly, and all three of them immediately put more distance between themselves and the cloud. Crackle! Just as they backed away, a giant golden lightning arc emerged from the cloud, illuminating the sky in golden color, and headed straight towards the portal of the Monster Paradise dungeon. Chapter 330. Why? You will be annihilated by the law of the universe. What the F***K? Evan cried out, inwardly feeling a sense of crisis like never before after seeing the notification. Suddenly he felt a strange energy fluctuation coming inside the boss room through the portal that appeared after he killed the Minotaur earlier. Even though he was inside the dungeon, Evan could sense that something terrible was happening outside the dungeon. Crackle! At this moment the golden lightning flashed in the gloomy black cloud. Just as the golden lighting flashed, the strange energy which seeped inside Evan's body earlier became even more active. Damn it, Evan cursed when he wasn't even able to blink because of the strange energy which was restricting him. He scanned his body and noticed even his monarch core was completely restricted by the strange energy. He tried to use his shadow energy, but found just like his mana, he can't use his shadow energy as well. Suddenly from the corner of his eyes, he saw Elijah, Necros and Eclipse were once again coming towards him. Necros and Eclipse were dragging their half-destroyed bodies towards him, while Elijah's destroyed arm was already regenerating. "You stupids, don't come here," Evan shouted inside his mind. He wasn't sure why, but deep inside he felt that if his shadow undeads were to be destroyed by this strange energy, he would not be able to summon them back. But since the strange energy was restricting him, he wasn't able to stop them. Crackle! At this moment Evan heard the sound of lightning. He did not know where the sound came from, but his heart immediately sank, and a feeling of impending doom engulfed him. His heartbeat started to increase. As his heartbeat started to increase, his monarch core, which was situated inside his heart, slowly started to rotate. The shadow energy inside his core started to churn. Suddenly Evan felt the restrictions on his body slowly loosen. The white of his eyes become pitch black, and a dark aura appeared around him. Boom! The shadow energy burst forth from his monarch core and flowed throughout his body. The strange energy was pushed out of his body by his shadow energy, and Evan was once again able to move. Even though most of the strange energy was pushed out of his body, Evan noticed there was still some energy left inside his body, and this energy was stopping the knowledge of his Abomincer class. But Evan did not care about this for now. An expression of joy appeared on his face after he was able to move once again, and he immediately turned around to prevent Elijah and the others from approaching him. But just as he turned around, he felt the sense of crisis he is feeling intensified by hundredfolds. Evan instinctively activated the temporal velocity skill using shadow energy. Everything in his eyes slowed down to an extreme level, and he noticed the portal present in the boss room started to flicker. Crackle! The next second a bolt of golden lightning emerged from the portal heading straight towards his direction. Just as the golden bolt of lightning emerged from the portal, Evan's instincts roared like never before. The first thought that came into his mind after seeing the golden lightning was to run away from there as fast as possible. But even though he was feeling fear, Evan knew that there is no way he can run faster than the lightning. Moreover, Elijah and his other shadow undeads who were coming towards him were also in the way of golden lighting. He did not know why, but just by looking at the golden lighting, he could feel that if his shadow undeads were to be destroyed by this golden lightning, he would not be able to summon them again. It might look like Evan was wasting time thinking about all of these things, but in fact, not even a second has passed since he activated the temporal velocity skill. He used shadow energy to activate the skill, which is why his mind was very active at the moment. He immediately calculated all the things inside his mind, and after feeling that he might lose his shadow undeads, he made a split-second decision. Shadow energy started to gather around his fist. He disappeared from the place he was standing, and the next second Elijah and others flew away from the place they were standing, as if someone had thrown them away. Evan appeared at the place they were standing. Shadow energy burst forth from his body, and he punched towards the incoming bolt of golden lighting. The shadow energy which gathered around his hand turned into a fist force, and shot forward like a beam of black light. The power behind the shadow energy was so great that even the space of the dungeon wasn't able to handle it, and some small space fissures appeared inside the boss room. After using the shadow energy to the extreme level, Evan was feeling pain all over his body. Even with his increased physical strength, his body still can't handle the potent power of shadow energy properly. But Evan ignored the pain he was feeling and punched 2 more times, sending 2 more fists force of the shadow energy. Rumble. The boss room started to shake because of the powerful energy fluctuations released by the shadow energy. Evan watched with serious eyes as the black energy clashed with golden lighting. He was thinking that there will be a loud explosion or something when his shadow energy will clash against the golden lighting. But when both of them clashed, the result made him open his eyes wide in shock. Impossible! Evan shouted as he watched his shadow energy fist force instantly disappear when it came into contact with golden lightning. The golden lightning arc continued to move forward like nothing happened, and when it came into contact with the other two fist forces, they also vanished just like the first one. Evan wanted to move away from his position to dodge the golden lightning arc, but his body was very weak. After using the shadow energy to the extreme level, the golden lightning arc instantly reached in front of him. At the last second, Evan used his newly gained skill Shadow Shroud and Shadow Wings to create a shield in front of him. But in front of golden lightning arc, the shield made from Shadow Shroud and Shadow Wings was like a paper. Evan watched as the shield he created was instantly destroyed, and even before he could react, the golden lightning struck him. Chapter 331. The barrier Evan created using Shadow Shroud and Shadow Wings was instantly destroyed by the golden lightning. He was still using temporal velocity, so when his barrier was destroyed, he watched in slow motion how the golden lightning arc moved towards him, bringing a sense of despair with it. Even before the golden lightning struck him, Evan could smell the death. He wanted to move away and dodge the lightning arc, but found his body is too weak after using shadow energy, and he does not have enough strength to dodge it. Damn, I never thought I will die like this, Evan thought just before the lightning struck him and closed his eyes. Just as he closed his eyes, the golden lightning struck him, and he felt a numbing sensation all over his body. Evan felt all the clothes he was wearing disappeared, just like how his shadow energy disappeared when it came into contact with the golden lightning. So I will also disappear from existence like this. A total annihilation, huh? Evan thought when his clothes disappeared. Suddenly Evan thought about all the money he got recently, and his heart ached even more. I was finally able to break up with poverty after all this time, but I am going to die even before I can enjoy the privilege of being rich, he said inwardly, and waited for golden lightning to completely annihilate him. In no time, a minute passed like this. Why am I still fine? Evan, who was standing with his eyes closed, thought when he was still fine even after 1 minute. He could still feel the numbing sensation all over his body, but other than that, he did not feel anything else. He slowly opened his eyes, and when he saw what was happening, his mind blanked out for a moment. What the F***K is happening now? Evan shouted out loud when he saw his entire body was covered in golden lightning. He was standing in his birthday suit, and golden lightning was moving all over his body. But other than feeling a numbing sensation, he didn't feel any discomfort from the lightning. Evan was completely baffled by the situation. Even his shadow energy wasn't able to survive after it came into contact with the golden lightning, so he wasn't able to understand why he is still fine, even after getting struck by the golden lightning. Crackle! At this moment he once again heard the sound of lightning crackling, and saw another golden lightning arc came through the portal. This lightning arc was bigger than the last one, and Evan could feel its power was even more terrifying than the previous lightning arc. This time Evan didn't close his eyes and watched as the lightning arc struck him, but after touching his body instead of harming him, it also started to move all over his body, just like the previous lightning arc. Evan raised an eyebrow after seeing this, and took out a normal sword from his shadow storage. After taking out the sword, he touched the golden lightning moving around him using the sword, but just as the sword came into contact with the golden lightning, it disappeared from existence. I think you should take a look at. When Evan saw this, he was sure that the lightning is still the same lightning that annihilated his shadow energy fist force, but for some reason, this lightning is not harming him. Evan did not know why this lightning was not harming him, but after he confirmed that he is not going to die, he felt his legs turning weak, and he fall down on his butt. But just as he fall down and the lightning circling around him touched the floor of the dungeon, it also started to disappear. Evan's mouth can't help but twitch when he saw this, but he didn't care too much about it. Currently, he was feeling very weak. Now that he knew he is safe and the adrenaline rush is ended, the after effects of using shadow energy were showing up. Crackle! Crackle! Soon he once again heard the sound of lightning crackling, and 2 more golden arcs of lightning came inside the boss room through the portal. Both of these golden lightning arcs were even more powerful than the previous lightning arcs, but since Evan knew the lightning is not harming him, he just looked at the lightning arcs with a face full of interest. The arcs of lightning struck him and, like the previous arcs of lightning, they too began to circle around him. In the next 10 minutes, 5 more lightning arcs came through the portal and struck him, but just like the previous arcs, they also did not harm him. By now Evan was looking like a golden-colored human torch. He was shining so bright that he can even replace a street light and work as a lightning pole. In these 10 minutes, he was forced to change his sitting position for multiple times, because of how easily lightning circling around him is destroying the ground. He also tried to open his status window to see what is actually happening, but found he still cannot open it. But Evan did not panic when he was not able to open his status window, because he could feel that the golden lighting around him is slowly disappearing, and he guessed that once the lightning will disappear, he will be able to open his status window. The strange energy which was stopping the flow of knowledge about his Abomincer class was still present in his body, and Evan was not sure what will happen with it. Soon 5 more minutes passed. In the last 5 minutes, no lightning arc came into the boss room through the portal, and the lightning around Evan also weakened a lot. Suddenly, when more than half of the light around him disappeared, Evan felt that a restriction had been lifted from him. At first, Evan was confused when he felt this, but then he remembered about his status window and tried to open it once again. And this time when he tried to open it, he was able to open it easily. As he opened his status window, some notifications flashed before his eyes, finally informing him why he was not harmed by the lightning. Chapter 332. The third effect of your title, Rule Breaker, is activated. The laws of this universe won't be able to harm you because of your title Rule Breaker. Effects of your title. 1. You can enter the Tower of Ascension after reaching a rank. 2. All the rules of the dungeons are ineffective against you. 3. Only the laws of the origin universe can affect you. Evan already knew about the first 2 effects of his title, so he immediately read about the third effect. But when he read about the third effect, a look of confusion appeared on his face. What is this origin universe now? He never heard anything about origin universe, so Evan looked at the third effect with a face full of confusion. But suddenly he looked at the first effect, and then at the third effect of his title. Using the Tower of Ascension, I can go to the higher world. May it be the origin universe is the higher world. Evan muttered, and a frown appeared on his face. Because if he is right, and the higher world and the origin universe are the same, then doesn't it mean his title will not work after he goes there, and he might have to face that golden lightning once again? Why the hell my life is so f***ed up? Evan can't help but say in frustration because of how each time he advances to the next rank, he has to face strange kinds of things. I hope I am wrong, and this origin universe and the higher world are 2 different places. Evan said inside out loud. He also noticed that there is no longer any question mark left over the effect of his Rule Breaker title. So there are a total of 3 effects of this title. At this moment, the golden lightning circling around him completely disappeared. Just as the lightning disappeared, the strange energy which was stopping the knowledge of his Abomincer class also started to disappear. When Evan saw this, an excited expression appeared on his face, and he waited for this strange energy to completely disappear. 10 seconds later, the energy which was stopping the knowledge of his Abomincer class completely disappeared. Evan thought that now that the energy had completely disappeared, he would be able to get all the information about his Abomincer class, but he was shocked when he soon saw that his Abomincer class knowledge was disappearing as well. Why the knowledge of my class is disappearing as well? Evan asked himself with a baffled look on his face. But the next second some notifications started to appear in front of his eyes. Because of the laws of origin universe, you cannot hold 2 classes at the same time, removing your Abomincer class. When Evan read these 2 notifications, a bewildered expression appeared on his face. He sat there doing nothing as he felt the little information he had learned about his Abomincer class slip through his mind. Abomincer. As an Abomincer, you are a spellcaster who delves into the ancient and forbidden arts of shadow magic. Now you have a deep understanding of the intricate nature of shadows, allowing you to manipulate and control darkness in profound ways. Since Evan knew that Abomincer class is related to ancient and forbidden arts of shadow magic, he can guess that the flow of knowledge that is currently disappearing is definitely about ancient and forbidden arts of shadow magic. Just from the words ancient and forbidden, he was sure that this knowledge is definitely something very precious. But even though he knew this knowledge is very precious, he could not do anything about it, and could only see as all the flow of knowledge disappeared from his mind. After 1 minute, the little knowledge he learned about his Abomincer class completely disappeared. Evan closed his eyes and took a deep breath. Currently, he was thinking about only one thing. I think you should take a look at. Is this origin universe is alive? Evan said while opening his eyes. If it is alive, then he will beat the sh*t out of it. After beating the sh*t out of it, he will kill it. After killing it, he will turn it into a shadow undead. After turning it into a shadow undead, he will ask it to clean the toilets for eternity. These 4 are now Evan's new long-term goals. Successfully removed your Webnovel class. Thanks for telling me JACKA*S, Evan said sarcastically after seeing the notification. But before he could curse more after losing his second class, another notification appeared before his eyes. Improving your Shadow Necromancer class to compensate for the removal of your Webnovel class. Suddenly, out of nowhere, a vast amount of mana came out, and before Evan could react, it seeped inside his body. Even though it was very sudden, Evan didn't react even after mana seeped inside his body. His eyes were still fixed on the notification that he just received. My Shadow Necromancer class is improving, muttered Evan as his eyes slowly widened in surprise. He finally focused on the mana that seeped inside his body, and saw it was going towards his prime core. But after coming near his prime core, the mana did nothing and just circled around it. Evan fully focused on what is happening inside his body without caring about anything else. He did not even care about the fact that the golden lightning already disappeared, and he can now wear his clothes. Why isn't anything happening? Evan muttered when even after a minute the mana just goes on circling around his prime core doing nothing. Suddenly the mana which was circling around his prime core finally moved. But instead of doing anything to his prime core, it rushed towards his heart, where his monarch core was located. When the mana came near his monarch core, it was absorbed by it. Improving your Shadow Necromancer class. Evan's eyes shined when he saw this notification, and monitored his monarch core with an excited look on his face. In less than 10 seconds all the mana was absorbed by his monarch core. Error. The level of the Shadow Necromancer class is too high. Can't increase the level of your class. Creating a new class-specific skill related to your Shadow Necromancer class. Extracting knowledge from Shadow Webnovel class to create a new skill. Congratulations! You have received the Forbidden Level class-specific skill. Growth link. Chapter 333. Error. The level of the Shadow Necromancer class is too high. Can't increase the level of your class. When Evan saw these notifications, all the excitement he was feeling to see the improvement of his class instantly vanished. He held his chest trying to surpass the pain he was feeling in his heart. His fragile heart wasn't able to take this hot and cold treatment anymore. He looked at the 3 notifications with a lifeless look on his face. What the hell is wrong with this world? Did he offend the mother of this world? He just wanted to increase the rank of his core. Why make his life so difficult? Just when Evan was doubting his life, few more notifications flashed before his eyes. Creating a new class-specific skill related to your Shadow Necromancer class. Extracting knowledge from Shadow Webnovel class to create a new skill. Congratulations! You have received the Forbidden Level class-specific skill. Growth link. But Evan's lifeless look did not change even after seeing these notifications. He already lost all hopes of receiving anything good from life. The mother of this skill ran away with Demon Lord. So you can't use this skill, Evan said with a lifeless look on his face. He was sure that the moment he will show some excitement, he will receive a notification similar to this telling him he can't use this skill. So instead of showing excitement, he just decided to wait and see what kind of fu** head up excuse he is going to receive again. But suddenly Evan felt something wrong with his body and, ugh. Just after these notifications, a soul-tearing pain emerged from the depth of his soul, making him cry out in pain. His monarch core started to rotate faster and faster. The black mark that appeared on his glabella after his monarch core reached to C rank returned to its normal size. Evan was in so much pain that he couldn't concentrate on anything. If it weren't for the fact that he has a high pain tolerance, due to the frequent headaches he feels, he would have lost consciousness long ago. While Evan was withering in pain, the rotating speed of his monarch core continued to increase. Suddenly the black mark on his glabella started to shake, and like a snake, it started to move towards his chest area. Since Evan was still in his birthday suit, the black mark easily reached at his chest area where his heart and monarch core were located. Just as the mark reached there, his monarch core started to release shadow energy. The shadow energy was not coming from the core, but through Evan's connection with the shadow realm. I think you should take a look at. The black mark on his heart area started to absorb all the shadow energy that his monarch core was releasing. As the mark absorbed the energy, its shape and size started to change. In the beginning, the mark was looking like a drop of water, and its size was just around 2 centimeters. But soon it turned into 10 centimeters wide black circle. The black circle continued to absorb shadow energy, and a strange rune started to form inside the black circle. Ugh. As the rune started to form, the pain Evan was feeling also intensified. He felt like someone was engraving something on his soul using a hot knife. The rune was half of the size of the black circle, and was looking quite mysterious. The engravings on the rune were also black in color, and it was giving an ancient feeling. This process lasted for about 10 minutes, before the shadow energy stopped coming through his connection with the shadow realm. After 10 minutes, now there were 2 runes inside the 10 centimeters wide circle. Both of the runes were looking different from each other, but the common thing about both of the runes was the ancient feeling that they were giving. Just as the shadow energy stopped coming through the connection, both of the runes shined in black light. Ugh! The butt-naked Evan screamed out loud, feeling soul-shuddering pain when both of the runes shined. His shadow undeads were looking at him from the side, not coming near him. Earlier, when he was covered in golden lightning, Evan ordered them to not come near him no matter what, so they still decided to not come near him. At the same time, all of his shadow undeads can feel a connection was being created between them and Evan. They were not able to understand what this connection was, but somehow they felt closer to Evan as the connection was being created. Even though Evan was feeling soul-shuddering pain, he was also able to feel the connection with Elijah and his other shadow undeads. After 2 more minutes of torture, the runes on his chest finally stopped shining. Just as the runes stopped shining, Evan felt 5 connections with his 5 shadow undeads. But suddenly the number of connections he was feeling started to increase. 10, 100, 1,000, hundreds of thousands. In less than 5 seconds he could feel thousands of connections, which was similar to the connection with his shadow undeads. There were so many connections that Evan's mind was overwhelmed by the number of connections. He felt his mind was about to burst open because of being overwhelmed. Just as Evan was going crazy because of thousands of connections, his monarch core stopped rotating, and the thousands of connections he was feeling disappeared, leaving behind only 5 connections with his shadow undeads. Evan was panting heavily, laying face first on the ground. After his core stopped rotating, his breathing was uneven and the pain he was feeling slowly disappearing. Just who is this MOTHERFU who is messing with me? Evan said while trying to sit up. He was feeling like someone is playing with him. Did I feel this pain because I was not excited after receiving that high-level skill? Evan thought, mustering up his strength to sit up. After sitting up, he first took a deep breath and tried to analyze the connection that just formed between him and his shadow undeads. This connection, Evan muttered and opened his status window. Chapter 334. Sitting up with difficulty, Evan opened his status window and looked at the details of the Growth Link skill. Growth Link Dash, a skill created using the forbidden knowledge of the Abomincer class. The skill level is very high, so most of the skill's effects are currently sealed. More skill effects will be unlocked as the user increases his core rank. The current effect of the skill. 1. The Growth Link skill will create a link between you and all of your shadow undeads. The power of shadow undeads who are of the same rank as you or lower rank than you will receive a massive boost in power due to the link. Shadow undeads who are of the higher rank than you will not receive any power boost because of the Growth Link, until you reach at the same rank as them or surpass them. The stronger you are, the stronger your shadow undeads will be. Evan : degrees O degrees. After reading the details of the skill, Evan's mouth opened wide in O shape. His breathing quickened and his body started to shake. Am I hallucinating because of what happened earlier? He asked himself while rubbing his eyes. He once again looked at the details of the skill after rubbing his eyes, but found it was still the same. Seeing the details were still the same, Evan's eyes nearly popped out of their sockets. Holy sh*t, what is this broken skill? Evan got up from the ground and exclaimed out loud. He was so surprised that he even forget about his weakened body. No matter how he looks at it, this skill was completely broken. The fact that the power of his shadow undeads can continue to increase as long as he increases his rank was truly absurd for him. Since the power of all of my shadow undeads who are of the same rank as me or lower rank than me will depend on my rank, then doesn't it mean even if I turn an F rank monster into shadow undead, its power will instantly increase, according to my rank, Evan said, while feeling he is in a dream. He looked at his shadow undeads who were still standing at the side and saw their power was still the same. The rank of all of my shadow undeads is higher than me, so there is no change in them. Evan thought and tapped his foot on the ground. Just as he tapped on the ground, a C-rank body of mantis-type monster came out of his shadow storage. He stored this body inside his shadow storage during the monster tide of the Nephilim city. After taking out its body, Evan used his shadow resurrection skill on it. Shadow energy came out of his monarch core and seeped inside the body of the C-rank mantis. Soon a C-rank shadow mantis stood in front of him. Evan felt the power of the shadow mantis and a frown appeared on his face. This mantis is on the same rank as me, then why is there no increase in its power? Evan muttered, feeling this skill is also a scam. But suddenly he realized something. I think you should take a look at. I can't feel the link connection with this mantis that growth link skill created with my shadow undeads, Evan said while frowning deeply. He once again looked at the details of the growth link skill, and finally understood why the power of this mantis did not increase. The skill will create a link between me and my shadow undeads. Although I have created this shadow mantis, it is still not my shadow undead, as it will disappear after an hour if I don't save it. After knowing he will have to first save the shadow undead to see the effect of the skill, Evan was disappointed. Damn, I really want to test the effect of this skill, Evan said, while looking at the shadow mantis, because currently, he can't save more than 5 shadow undeads. He could remove one of his saved shadow undeads, and save the C-rank shadow mantis, to see the effect of link growth skill. But this thought did not even cross Evan's mind, because there is no way he is going to remove any of his 5 shadow undeads. But soon his eyes lit up. Now that my prime core is at C rank, I can advance the rank of my monarch core without any problem. Evan said out loud, feeling excited. After increasing the rank of his monarch core, he will be able to save more shadow undeads, and can see the effects of the skill. He quickly waved his hand and cancelled his shadow resurrection skill. The shadow mantis he created disappeared, and Evan put away its body back into his shadow storage. After putting away the body, Evan finally looked at his chest area where he could still see the runes. Even though he wasn't able to pay too much attention when the runes were being engraved, he was still aware of the etching process. When Evan looked at the runes, he felt a mystical feeling coming from them. Are these runes also created using the forbidden knowledge of the Abomincer class? Evan mumbled while touching the runes. But he did not think too much about it, and soon realized he is still star naked. He took out some clothes from his storage ring and put them on. Good thing I was not wearing my Sunfire armor earlier, or Evan's body can't help but shudder when he thinks about how he might have lost his armor earlier. After wearing clothes, Evan asked Elijah to use her healing skill on him since his body was still aching. While Elijah healed him, he also used his mana to repair the destroyed bodies of Necros and others. According to the details, this is just the first effect of this skill. I wonder what kind of effects will be unlocked once I increase the rank of my core. Evan thought, feeling excited. After Elijah healed him, Evan felt his body slowly returning to normal. He looked at the bed that he took out earlier, and saw it was completely destroyed. Sighing out loudly, Evan once again sat down on the ground and took out cores from his shadow storage. Chapter 335. While Evan was increasing the rank of his cores, a large crowd gathered outside of the Monster Paradise dungeon. Now, other than Nathan and the other 2S rank hunters, there were many A and A+ rank hunters as well. When the golden lightning rained down from the sky, most of the hunters felt its terrifying power, and immediately came towards the Monster Paradise dungeon. But after seeing Nathan and the other 2S rank hunters, most of the people left from there and only A and A+ rankers stayed behind. All the gathered hunters watch from the distance as the dark cloud flashing with golden lightning slowly disappears. Did you find what was that lightning? Jeffrey asked Nathan while floating beside him. Other than Jeffrey, Edward, Isaac, Olivia and many other hunters of Astarte City were also present there. We don't know, but that was definitely natural lightning. because we did not feel any mana fluctuation from that lightning, Nathan said while shaking his head. Even though I was far away from here, I was still able to feel the power of that lightning. Even when I encountered an S-rank monster during one of my trips to the wilderness, I didn't feel this kind of dreadful feeling that I felt after seeing that lightning, said Isak, looking at the dungeon portal with a serious look. I wonder why that lightning went inside the dungeon portal, Edward asked while frowning deeply. Did you ask the guard of the dungeon if anyone entered inside recently? Jeffrey asked to Nathan, who shook his head. That lightning ended just a minute ago, so we didn't get time to ask him. Then let's just go and ask him. After all, it is better than making useless assumptions by ourselves, Julian said, and they all came down from the sky, landing before the Monster Paradise dungeon. But when they landed in front of the dungeon, their bodies froze. Oh my, what the hell am I seeing? This thought immediately appeared in the mind of all the hunters, including 3S rankers. For the first time in their lives, all of them felt the need to undergo an eye test. In front of the dungeon, an old man was sitting under an umbrella munching peanuts and watching something on his phone. He was using earphones of the famous Thought Company and was completely unaware about all the hunters who landed in front of him. After seeing the guard, everyone glanced at Jeffrey, whose mouth was twitching. Monster Paradise Dungeon is controlled by the Crimson Blade Guild, whose guild master is Jeffrey. Jeffrey took a deep breath and moved towards the old man who was watching the beggar and the beast. Coming in front of the old man, Jeffrey tapped on his shoulder, bringing him out of the beggar and the beast world. The old man was momentarily stunned when he lifted his head and saw Jeffrey. He obviously recognized his boss with just a single glance. Before he could say anything to Jeffrey, he saw more people coming towards him, and his mind blanked out for a moment, seeing all the big shots of the city standing in front of him. Seeing the stunned face of the old man, Jeffrey shook his head and sighed. He was not angry or anything after seeing that the old man is actually watching a movie. He knew that it is a boring job to sit in front of the dungeon all day and keep an eye on the people entering the dungeon. Think you should take a look at. He was just speechless that this old man did not even feel the terrifying lightning that was raining down from above his head. You don't have to be nervous. We just want to ask you a question, Jeffrey said, looking at the old man who was nervous after seeing so many big shots. Hearing Jeffrey, the old man calmed down a little and removed his Thought Company's earphones. Seeing the old man was not looking nervous anymore, Jeffrey immediately asked him, has anyone entered the dungeon recently? Nathan and the other hunters also looked at the old man seriously. They also wanted to know if anyone entered the dungeon. Hearing Jeffrey, the old man remembered the D+ rank youth who entered the dungeon a few hours ago, and nodded his head. Seeing the old man nodding his head, the eyes of all the hunters flashed. Soon the old man told them everything, and even showed Evan's details that he got from his hunter's card. Most of the hunters were shocked when they saw it was Evan who entered the dungeon. He is the student who got first place during the practical exam of the academy, right? Julian said while looking at the details of Evan. He is just a D+ rank hunter. Why did he enter a B rank dungeon? Margaret said in a doubtful voice. She was one of the hunters who never met him, and was unaware about him. Olivia's eyes flashed when she saw it was Evan who went in. She already knew who hired Terror Brothers to keep an eye on Leon. I don't know what that lightning was, and whether it had anything to do with him, but I don't think he would be alive if that lightning was targeting him, Olivia said in a plain tone. Edward looked at the portal, feeling a slight headache. Evan is the part of the team who will represent a straight academy in the tournament. Leon was also part of the team, but he is already dead. If something also happened to Evan, they will have to replace him as well. It is very easy to confirm whether he is alive or dead, Sebastian said, and looked at the old man. Hearing Sebastian, the eyes of other hunters also flashed, and they looked at the old man as well. According to the restrictions of the Monster Paradise dungeon, only one person can enter it at a time. If they want to check whether Evan is still alive or dead, all they have to do is ask a hunter to try to enter it. If the hunter successfully enters the dungeon, it would mean that Evan is dead. But if the person is unable to enter the dungeon, it would mean that Evan is still alive and inside the dungeon. They all looked at the old man because he was a C+ rank hunter. Edward and the other hunters who were there were all higher than B+ rank, so they cannot enter the B rank dungeon and confirm whether Evan is alive or dead. The old man also understood what they were thinking, so without saying anything he walked towards the portal. Nathan and others looked at him with focused gazes, wanting to see what will happen. The old man still wanted to watch the Beggar and the Beast movie, so he quickly tried to enter the dungeon, wanting to see the result. But just as he touched the portal, he was pushed back by an invisible force. Seeing this, Edward's eyes lit up. He is still alive. Chapter 336. Anastasia was sitting on the top of the Black Castle looking at the dark sky. The sky in the Shadow Realm was pitch black. There were no clouds, stars, moon, or anything else in the sky of the Shadow Realm. The entire Shadow Realm was shrouded in a dark aura without a single particle of light, giving the people watching it a feeling of loneliness and despair. It's been over 30 days since the Master re-established his connection with the Shadow Realm. I wonder when he will return. Anastasia muttered to herself, looking at the black sky. Thud, thud, rat-tat-tat. Suddenly Anastasia heard some sounds, and an annoyed expression appeared on her face. These bastards are attacking the entrance to the Shadow Realm like it's their neighbor's door. Anastasia waved her hand, and a screen appeared before her showing some demons attacking on the entrance portal of the Shadow Realm. Killing intent flashed in her eyes as she watched the demons attack the portal. She felt like she was seeing some thugs constantly knocking at her door. If not for the fact that she cannot leave the Shadow Realm, she would have already destroyed their existence. Looks like it is time to teach these fools a lesson, Anastasia said as she glanced at the crow-faced demon standing at the back. She wasn't worried about the demons who were constantly attacking the portal, but she knew Malfacer is not a normal demon. They were calling him Commander Malfacer. He seems to be someone from the Corvallis race of the demons, Anastasia said while rubbing her chin. Corvallis is a race of demons who looks like crows. Demons of Corvallis race don't have high talent, and they are a mid-level race among demons. Even though Malfacer was also a demon from Corvallis's race, he was still able to become one of the 5 commanders of Baphomet, which shows how excellent his talent is. After pondering for some time, Anastasia finally made up her mind. She had enough of these fools who are knocking at the door of her master's realm. She disappeared from the top of the castle, and came to a place which was filled with thousands of black round balls. Coming there, she looked around a bit using her spiritual senses, and soon came across a black ball. It is finally time to throw out this nuisance, she said with an evil smile on her face. She touched the black ball, and a black energy seeped out of her hand, slowly corroding the black ball. The black ball was the size of an adult human, and it took Anastasia about 5 minutes to corrode half of it. Whoosh! Exclamation point. Just as she successfully corroded half of it, the rest of the black ball burst open, covering the surrounding area around it in a purple smoke. Anastasia was not surprised by this, and just waved her hand, blowing away the purple smoke. When the smoke disappeared, a 3-meter-tall muscular-looking black humanoid monster came into view of Anastasia. I think you should take a look at. The monster looked like a shadow undead. It had a large round-shaped head, and most of its body was like a muscular-looking human. The body of the monster was completely black in color, and looked as if it was full of cracks. The cracks on its black body were representing its identity as a lava demon. The members of the lava demon race are very powerful even among other demon races, but they are usually treated like slaves because of their low numbers. There are no more than 1,000 lava demons alive in the entire world. Wakey wakey Volta, it is time to rise and shine, Anastasia said in a cheerful voice sounding like a gentle big sister next door. The earlier evil smile on her face already disappeared. Just as Anastasia spoke, 2 big eyes burning with purple flames opened on the big round face of Volta. As he opened his eyes, a momentary look of confusion passed through his eyes. He turned his large head around and looked at Anastasia. Seeing the smiling face of Anastasia, Volta was stunned for 2 whole seconds. After 2 seconds, he turned around and closed his eyes once again. I must be dreaming. That evil woman will never smile like this, Volta said, ready to go into deep slumber once again. Hearing Volta, Anastasia almost lost her gentle smile. But she took a deep breath to calm down, because currently, she needs his help to deal with Malfacer. Wake up, Volta. This is no time to sleep. Some demons are trying to forcefully enter the Shadow Realm. Will you let them in when our master is not here? Anastasia said in an insistent voice. Just as she finished speaking, a red aura burst forth from Volta's body. Anastasia smiled inwardly seeing this and waved her hand, stopping the red aura from affecting the other black balls. Who is daring enough to invade my master's home when he is not here? Volta roared out loud as the temperature around him started to increase. He is indeed a lava demon with a hot brain. Anastasia thought to herself, seeing angry Volta. She waved her hand and the screen showing demons attacking on the portal of the Shadow Realm appeared in front of him. Seeing demons attacking on the portal of the Shadow Realm, Volta's purple eyes flashed with intense killing intent. If these bastards want to die so badly, I will fulfill their wish, Volta said and looked at Anastasia. But seeing she still had a gentle smile on her face, he was once again stunned for 2 seconds. Are you all right, wicked woman? He asked, feeling that she had lost her mind after not seeing her master for a long time. Suddenly Volta felt the surrounding temperatures started to drop. He glanced at Anastasia, and seeing her cold eyes, he felt all invisible hairs on his body stand up to no end. I will soak in the shadow energy pool for a few days before dealing with them. My body won't be able to handle my power if I don't do this, Volta said after seeing Anastasia's cold eyes and quickly ran away from there. Anastasia just snorted seeing him running away and looked at the screen showing demons attacking on the Shadow Realms portal. It would not be difficult for him to deal with these demons. After all, he was once revered throughout the world as the sovereign of the flames, Anastasia muttered, and she also disappeared from there. Chapter 337. 3 days later inside the dungeon, Evan was sitting cross-legged on the floor of the boss room. A large mana vortex was spinning above his head, attracting large amounts of mana from the surrounding. The size of this mana vortex was very big, compared to previous mana vortexes. It was around 30 meters in diameter, and was covering a large area of the room. Evan's body was absorbing the mana drawn by the vortex like a bottomless pit as his core advances to the next rank. After 5 minutes of continuously absorbing mana, a notification flashed before his eyes. Your prime core reached the B+ rank. Whoosh! As soon as the notification flashed, his prime core released a great amount of energy that spread throughout his body, and began to nourish the cells of his body, making his already terrifying physical body even more terrifying. Evan closed his eyes and enjoyed the feeling of his body becoming stronger. His mana pool also increased by a good margin after his prime core advanced to the B+ rank. 2 minutes later, Evan's prime core stopped releasing energy, and Evan opened his eyes. He inspected his prime core, and saw the power inside his prime core was very chaotic. He was not surprised when he saw his core was not stabilized like always. He increased the rank of his prime core many times in the last 3 days, which made it destabilized. This would not have happened if he had increased his Monic core rank to B rank before his prime core rank. But instead of increasing the rank of his Monic core first, he decided to increase the rank of his prime core because of what happened last time. He was afraid that if he raised his Monic core rank, he might once again receive a large amount of energy from the Shadow Realm. That would increase his Monic core rank just like last time. If something like that happens, then his prime core will be damaged again. He didn't want to take any chances, so he decided to increase the rank of his prime core first. Now that his prime core is at B+ rank, it will not be harmed even if the energy of the Shadow Realm raises the rank of his Monic core to S rank. My prime core will be stabilized again once I increase the rank of my Monic core. Evan muttered and stopped looking at his destabilized prime core. I never expected that I will have to use so many cores to increase its rank to B+. Evan said while shaking his head. For the last 3 days, he was absorbing cores one after another. He used so many cores that he even lost count of them. I was too naive to think that with the number of cores I collected, I would be able to bring both my prime and Monic cores to the peak of B+ rank. Evan opened his status window and looked at it, but he was disappointed when he saw he didn't receive any new skills even after increasing the rank of his prime core so many times. Normally after gaining their class, hunters get skills related to their class each time they advance to the next rank. But Evan didn't gain any skills even after raising his prime core's rank to B+, because when his prime core reached at C rank, he gained no class from it. Evan clenched his fist, and the air around his fist was blasted away because of his high physical strength. Name: Evan. Rank: E+. Monic core rank: E. Strength: E+. Agility: E+. Mana: E+. I think you should take a look at. Stamina: E+. Intelligence: E+. Luck: A. Charm: A. Shadow energy: E. Skills: Ash Shadow Walk, Shadow Storage, Dimensional Shadow Bullet, Ice Chains, Wind Manipulation, Shadow Wings, Temporal Velocity, Shadow Shroud, Devourer, can't be used. Physique: Ash Shadow Monarch Physique. Title: Rule Breaker, Ruler of the Shadow Realm ? Class: Ash Shadow Necromancer. Class skills: Ash Shadow Resurrection, Shadow Save, Shadow Senses, Shadow Possession, Growth Link. Evan checked the details of the Growth Link skill as well, and saw that it was still the same. After looking at the details of his status window for some time, he closed it and took a deep breath. Let's start, he muttered and took out a core from his shadow storage. Because of what happened when his core reached to C rank, his Monarch core is already at the peak of C rank. He just needs to absorb one core, and he will be able to break through to B rank with his Monarch core. I wonder what effect the Growth Link skill will have on my shadow undeads. Once I reach B rank, muttered Evan, and looked at Aqua and his other shadow undeads. In addition to the effect of his Growth Link skill, he also wanted to know how many shadow undeads he would be able to save after advancing to B rank. Evan put the B+ rank core he took out in his mouth. As soon as he put the core in his mouth, it turned into energy, and that energy rushed towards his Monarch core. When the energy came near his Monarch core, it was absorbed by it, and slowly another mana vortex started to form above his head. His Monarch core also started to rotate after absorbing the energy, and in less than 5 seconds, a mana vortex which was 100 meters in diameter appeared above Evan's head. The vortex was covering the entire area of the boss room, and was drawing a large amount of mana. Evan monitored his connection with the Shadow Realm carefully to make sure nothing goes wrong this time. The mana vortex spun faster and faster, and slowly Evan's Monarch core started to move towards B rank. For the next 10 minutes, his Monarch core continues to absorb mana from the vortex. After 10 minutes, the vortex above his head slowly started to disappear, and the rotating speed of his Monarch core also slowed down. Evan also sighed in relief when he saw nothing unexpected happen this time. In less than a minute, the vortex above his head disappeared and a notification flashed before his eyes. Your Monarch core advanced to the B rank. Chapter 338. Your Monarch core advanced to the B rank. When the notification flashed before Evan's eyes, his Monarch core also released a large amount of energy. But instead of paying attention to it, Evan was looking at his shadow undeads, because he just received another notification. Your Growth Link skill activated. Right parenthesis. Ignoring his growing strength, Evan carefully looked at Elijah and his other shadow undeads. Just as the notification flashed, he felt his connection with Elijah and his other 3 shadow undeads become deeper. He didn't feel any change in his connection with Elijah, but he wasn't surprised by this. According to skill details, only shadow undeads who are at the same rank as him or lower rank than him will receive a power boost. Elijah is an A rank shadow undead, so he will have to increase his rank one more time if he wants to increase her power. Suddenly Evan felt the area around his chest heating up. He took off his shirt and saw one of the 2 runes engraved on his chest was shining with deep black light. As the rune shined, Evan's connection with the Shadow Realm opened once again, and he started receiving shadow energy from it. The shadow energy that came from the Shadow Realm moved through the link created by his Growth Link skill and seeped inside the bodies of his 4 shadow undeads. Just as the shadow energy seeped inside their bodies, the rune on his chest shone with even more intense black light. The bodies of his 4 shadow undeads started to shake, and Evan noticed a rune similar to the rune which was shining on his chest appear on the faces of his shadow undeads. When the rune appeared on their faces, the aura of all of his shadow undeads started to increase. The most eye-catching was Eclipse, who instantly reached to B+ rank. When Eclipse reached B+ rank, its body also started to change. From its normal size, it became 4 meters high and 5 meters long. Its entire body was covered in pitch black looking scales, and was looking far more powerful than before. Necro's height also increased by 1 meter, and it became 6 meters tall. Its horn size also increased by 10 centimeters. Necro's rank was still B+, but its power was definitely higher than before. Aqua's rank didn't change and remained at B+ as well, but Evan could feel that its aura was also more powerful than before. When Evan looked at Elijah, he saw that there was no significant difference in her aura. Although her power also increased, it was very low compared to Eclipse and others. But when Evan thought about her original strength, he realized it made sense that she didn't receive a high boost in her power. Elijah was already far more powerful than any other B+ rank monster. If she received a strength boost similar to Eclipse and others, she would probably have reached A rank. He is still at B rank, so there is no way his skill could help Elijah to reach at A rank. After 1 minute, Evan felt the shadow energy stop coming from his connection with the shadow realm, and the link created by his growth link skill also closed. The rune which was shining on his chest also returned to normal. Evan didn't care about all of these and carefully inspected his shadow undeads. I think you should take a look at. Only Eclipse was able to break through to the next rank, since it was the only one who was at B rank. Evan muttered and nodded his head. The effect of the skill was actually far better than he initially thought. He didn't expect that Eclipse will be able to break through to the next rank. The power of Necros and others also increased by a good margin. If I turn an F rank monster into a shadow undead, will it also reach to B+ rank instantly? Evan muttered, feeling excited. He immediately wanted to test the skill on a low-level shadow undead, but first, he had to see how many shadow undeads he could save now. You have unlocked your spiritual senses. You have received the skill, Shadow Nails. You have received the class-specific skill, Death Transfer. Before he could see how many shadow undeads he could save, he saw a few more notifications that he received earlier after reaching B rank. Spiritual senses. Evan raised an eyebrow when he saw this. Hunters generally unlock their spiritual senses after reaching A rank. He did not expect that his Monarch Core will unlock his spiritual senses so soon. The power of one's spiritual sense depends on the power of one's soul. Evan was not in a hurry to test the power of his spiritual senses, so he decided to check it out later after leaving the dungeon. Shadow Nails Dash. Using the power of the shadow, you can create 5 cursed nails at a time that can immobilize the target's body. When it hits the target's shadow, there is a 3% chance that the target will receive the Nightmare Curse after being immobilized by the shadow nail, and will fall into a nightmare illusion. If the target's soul power is not strong enough, he will not be able to leave the nightmare illusion, and upon losing his life in illusion, he will lose his life in reality as well. Death Transfer Dash. Using Death Transfer, you can transfer injuries, curses, or diseases from yourself to your shadow, or vice versa. You can also transfer damage received from one shadow to another. You can use this skill once every 2 hours. When Evan read the details of his new skills, he could not help but feel stunned. Too powerful, he said, feeling both of his new skills were too powerful. Shadow Nail was a normal skill, but if we take into account the effect of the Nightmare Curse, this skill can be considered a unique skill. As for the Death Transfer, this is a life-saving skill that can save his life in a critical time. These skills are far better than the skills that normal hunters receive after increasing their core rank. Evan muttered and smiled. After seeing the details of his new skills, he quickly scrolled down and looked at the details of his Shadow Save skill to see how many shadows he could save now. Shadow Save. Chapter 339. Shadow Save. Ash, you can use shadow energy to create unlimited shadow undeads, but you can only preserve 50 of them. Shadow undead who are not preserved will disappear after 1 hour. Number of preserved shadows, 5/50. 50. Evan muttered with a shocked look on his face. He never thought that the number will be increased by 10 times. He was so shocked that he continued to look at the number 50 without moving. Master. Seeing Evan was frozen solid without doing anything, Elijah became worried and called out for him. Hearing Elijah, Evan finally came out of his thoughts and took a deep breath. Looks like I can finally think about creating an army in the future, said Evan, feeling excited. He stood up from the place he was sitting and tapped his foot on the ground. Immediately, body of a D+ rank dead mantis appeared before him. Evan activated his Shadow Resurrection skill. Shadow energy came out of his Monarch Core and seeped inside the body of the dead mantis. The body of the mantis started to shake, and soon a D+ rank Shadow Mantis came out of its body. Seeing the Shadow Mantis, Evan used his Shadow Save and preserved the Shadow of Mantis. Your Growth Link skill activated. Just as he used his Shadow Save skill on the Mantis, his Growth Link skill once again activated. Like before, his connection with the Shadow Realm and link with the Shadow Mantis opened. The rune on his chest also lit up, and the same rune appeared on the face of the Shadow Mantis. When the rune appeared on the Shadow Mantis's face, its aura started to increase. Along with its aura, Shadow Mantis's body also began to change. Its height remained the same at 150 centimeters, but the size of its sickle-like hands increased by 20 centimeters to reach 120 centimeters. Sharp black thorns began to emerge from its back, and its body became more slender. C rank, C+ rank, B+ rank. In less than a minute, the Shadow Mantis reached B+ rank, and a powerful aura emerged from its body. Evan was looking at the Shadow Mantis with his mouth wide open. Even though he already expected this, he was still shocked when he saw a D+ rank monster reach to B+ rank in less than a minute. He was very envious. He has to work his ass off and collect cores to raise his rank, but this guy reached B+ rank without doing anything. Now he also wanted to become a Shadow Undead. He lifted his hand and tried to cast Shadow Resurrection skill on himself. The result was quite obvious. He could only look at the Shadow Mantis, who was now standing with the aura of a B+ rank Shadow Undead. Life is not fair, Evan thought while shaking his head. I think you should take a look at. Soon everything returned to normal once again. Shadow energy stopped coming from his connection with the Shadow Realm, and the link created by the Growth Link skill also closed. Evan took a closer look at Shadow Mantis, and found that even though it was a B+ rank Shadow Undead, its aura was weaker than Necro's and his other Shadow Undeads. Its aura is on par with Necro's, before it received the boost from Growth Link skill. Evan muttered while rubbing his chin. He could think of two reasons why the Shadow Mantis was weaker than his other Shadow Undeads. First, it could be because it was a D+ rank monster when he turned it into a Shadow Undead. Unlike Shadow Mantis, his other Shadow Undeads were of a much higher rank when he turned them into Shadow Undeads. Second, this Shadow Mantis was a weakling when it was alive, Evan said while looking at the Shadow Mantis with a strange face. He waved his hand and removed the Shadow Mantis from his preserved shadow. Just as he removed it from his preserved shadow, the Shadow Mantis's body exploded into black mist and disappeared. Evan was surprised when he saw this. So the shadow I would unsave will disappear immediately, huh? Evan muttered and once again tapped his foot on the ground. Just as he tapped his foot on the ground, the bodies of 3 wolves came out from his shadow storage. Seeing the 3 bodies in front of him, Evan's eyes lit up like stars, and he once again used the Shadow Resurrection skill. 30 minutes later, Evan stood in front of the exit portal of the dungeon, with a pleased expression ready to leave. He was very satisfied with his trip to Monster Paradise Dungeon. Now that his Monarch core reached B rank, he decided to leave the dungeon. He still has some cores left that he could absorb, but he decided to absorb them after going back to the academy. He is inside the dungeon for more than 4 days, and now he started to feel sick of sitting here all day doing nothing and only absorbing the cores, so he decided to leave from here before absorbing the rest of the cores. Just before stepping inside the portal, Evan thought about something and stopped. Can I use my spiritual senses to see what's on the other side of the portal? Evan muttered and closed his eyes. He wanted to try it because if he could see the other end of the portal using his spiritual senses, then in the future, he would be able to observe the situation inside the dungeon even before entering it. After closing his eyes, Evan tried to observe his surroundings using his spiritual power. His spiritual power activated and an invisible wave of energy started coming out of his body and entered inside the exit portal. When his spiritual power went into the exit portal, Evan felt a strange energy try to block his spiritual senses. But the very next moment the energy disappeared, and he was able to see the other end of the portal. He didn't know it, but others can't use their spiritual senses to see the other side of the dungeon portal. He was successfully able to see the other end of the portal only because of the second effect of his Rule Breaker. Title: Evan was able to see the portal of the Monster Paradise dungeon after his spiritual senses successfully crossed the portal. He wanted to see the limit of his spiritual senses, so Evan used his spiritual power to its maximum limit, and soon the view of the other end of the portal appeared inside his mind. Chapter 340. Wanting to know the limit of his spiritual senses, Evan used his spiritual power to its maximum limit. The range of his spiritual senses started to increase. Soon Evan was able to see the old man who was sleeping under the umbrella. But he didn't stop there, and soon his spiritual senses covered around 5 kilometers of area. Evan felt a little lightheaded after using his spiritual power to its maximum limit, but he was smiling widely after seeing the range of his spiritual senses. According to what he knew, the range of a normal A-rank hunter's spiritual sense is around 2 to 3 kilometers. He is not even an A-ranker, but his range is already 5 kilometers, which is more than an A-rank hunter. Feeling satisfied, Evan was about to withdraw his spiritual senses, when he suddenly noticed a few people who were sitting in one of the corners of the dungeon area. There were around 10 or so people, and all of them were wearing different kinds of uniforms. These people Evan focused his spiritual senses around these people, and saw they all were wearing the uniforms of different guilds. Most of the people who were sitting there were at B or B+ rank. Evan also noticed some people of the Hunter Association among them. What are all these people doing here? Evan thought when he saw so many people outside of the dungeon. Furthermore, he also noticed that most of them were looking in the direction of the Monster Paradise dungeon portal from time to time, as if they were waiting for someone. After the golden lightning cloud disappears, Nathan and the other high-ranking hunters wait for some time for Evan to emerge from the dungeon. But when he did not come out even after a day, they all went away, leaving one of their underlings to watch the dungeon and notify them when he came out of it. Are these people waiting for me? Evan said when he saw they were monitoring the dungeon portal. But it did not take him long to understand why they were waiting for him. That golden lightning, Evan said, and furrowed his eyebrows. But he soon relaxed and withdrew his spiritual senses. I just have to behave like a lost lamb that knows nothing about golden lightning after leaving the dungeon. Evan muttered and stepped inside the exit portal. It is not like they saw me being struck by that lightning. Suddenly the people waiting outside saw the dungeon portal flickered. All of them stood up, and the next second they saw Evan coming out of the portal wearing tattered clothes. Before leaving the dungeon, he changed his clothes, so that people would think that he had fought a hard battle inside the dungeon. Seeing Evan, they sent a message to their guild master who had stationed them there, and rushed towards him. Evan's mouth can't help but twitch when he saw how all of them were rushing towards him. I think you should take a look at. Before they could get to him, a green light flashed in his eyes, and a wind barrier appeared in front of him, stopping all the people who were heading towards him. What do you want from me? Evan asked, pretending to be surprised to see so many people. The people of the various guilds did not answer him immediately, and looked at him with a dazed look. They all got information about Evan from their guild master who called them here. They all knew that the person who entered the dungeon was just a D+ rank hunter. But seeing the wind barrier and Evan's B+ rank aura, they felt like they were dreaming. Hello, Evan said once again when no one said anything. Hearing Evan, all of them finally came out of their shocked state. Are you Evan? A man who was wearing the uniform of the Crimson Blade Guild asked Evan after recovering from his shock. He was thinking that the person in front of him might be someone else. The rest of the people present there also thought the same and waited for Evan's answer. I am. Do you need something from me? But when Evan confirmed his identity, all of them were shocked once again. The man who was wearing the uniform of the Crimson Blade Guild took a deep breath to calm down after hearing him. We might have had the wrong information about him. He could only think that they all had the wrong information about Evan. S rank. Actually, while you were inside the dungeon, there was an anomaly that affected the entire city. The man from the Crimson Guild told Evan about the golden lightning and why they were waiting for him. So could you please stay here for a while, as most of the high-ranking hunters in the city want to ask you some questions. The man said to Evan after telling him everything. He would have simply ordered Evan to stay there, but when he felt Evan's aura, he felt like he would receive a good beating if he tried to act arrogant in front of him, so he asked him politely. When Evan heard about the golden lightning, he pretended to be surprised and nodded his head after listening to the man. The man from the Crimson Guild was happy when he saw Evan nodding his head, but his body stiffened when he heard what Evan said next. I have no problem answering their questions, but I'm in no mood to wait for them here. If they want to ask me anything, just tell them to find me at the academy. Saying this, Evan used his shadow wings, and 2 black wings appeared on his back. Why? Before the man from the Crimson Guild could say anything, Evan flapped his wings and flew away from there, leaving behind a few dazed people. They must be dreaming, thinking that I would wait for them. I am not their subordinate who will listen to their order for no reason, Evan said with a sneer on his face, and flew towards the academy. But just as he left the area of the Monster Paradise dungeon, he felt some strong mana fluctuations. Before he could understand from where mana fluctuations were coming, a silver light flashed and Evan disappeared from the sky. Chapter 341. What is this place? Evan muttered, looking at the brown-colored barrier around him. Evan found himself inside this brown dome-shaped barrier after being teleported away suddenly. The barrier was transparent, so Evan was able to see outside of it. Outside of the barrier, there was a dimly lit hall, and it was looking like the basement of a building. Evan walked near the transparent wall of the barrier and examined it. The power of this barrier is around A rank, Evan said after examining the barrier. After looking at the barrier, he once again looked around, but still didn't see anyone. He was confused about how he was teleported here. If Evan wanted, he could have left from there without any problem. But before doing anything, he wanted to know who is the person who brought him here. Suddenly Evan's eyes lit up and he thought of something. He closed his eyes and used his newly unlocked spiritual senses. His spiritual power activated, and soon Evan was able to see his surroundings. Wanting to know where he is now, Evan increased the range of his spiritual senses, and was soon able to see beyond the hall where he was trapped. As the range of his spiritual sense increased, he was able to confirm that he was indeed inside the basement of a building. This area. When Evan's spiritual senses covered an area of 5 kilometers, he felt that he had seen this area before. Isn't this the area not far from the Monster Paradise dungeon where new buildings are being built? Muttered Evan, remembering that he had seen this area when he was going to the Monster Paradise dungeon 4 days ago. Through his spiritual senses, Evan suddenly saw 2 people coming towards the building he was trapped in. He focused his spiritual senses on them, and when he saw their faces, he recognized one of them. So he is the one, huh? Evan shook his head and stopped using his spiritual senses. I was so happy after reaching B rank that I completely forgot about him. Evan tapped his foot on the ground, and a chair emerged from his shadow storage. He sat down on the chair with a relaxed expression on his face, and waited for both people to come. FOOTSTEP asterisk, FOOTSTEPS asterisk. 2 minutes later, Evan heard the sound of footsteps and saw 2 men coming towards him. Among the 2, one was a young man who was around 180 centimeters tall. He had long brown color hair, black eyes with thin eyebrows. That gave him a rather feminine look. He was wearing an expensive-looking black suit with matching black shoes, and like always he was walking like he got the biggest DI*K in the world. Evan ignored the young man and looked at the middle-aged man beside him. The middle-aged man had short brown hair and black eyes. He was also wearing an expensive-looking black suit, but unlike the young man, his face was rather stern-looking. All in all, both of them were looking like modern-day young master and patriarch. Even after receiving a good beating from me that day, this guy is still walking so arrogantly. Evan thought when he saw how Jack was walking. Without needing anyone to tell him, he also recognized the middle-aged man who was walking with Jack. So he, the guild master of the arcane scribe, and the father of this SHT* type rat. I think you should take a look at. Soon both Adam and Jack stopped in front of the barrier, but they were stunned to see how comfortably Evan was sitting inside the barrier. Jack was displeased when he saw Evan's relaxed look, and he wanted to say something, but before he could say anything, Evan stood up from the chair. Let's start without wasting any time, Evan said while stretching his body. Jack was lost for words when he heard Evan. On the other hand, Adam narrowed his eyes after seeing Evan's confident-looking face. What do you mean by let's start? Adam asked, looking at him with his deep eyes. Evan smiled when he heard Adam. You already know what I am talking about. After all, you are not here for a chit-chat, right? Adam raised an eyebrow when he heard Evan, but then he shook his head. We are not here for chit-chat, but we are also not here for a fight. Evan was surprised when he heard they were not here for a fight, but he did not interrupt Adam and continued to listen. I just come here to confirm that you are trapped here properly, and will not be able to escape. Evan looked at Adam weirdly after hearing him. So you are saying instead of killing me, you want to trap me here like a prisoner for the rest of my life? Adam did not answer Evan, and just showed him a cold smile. Seeing his smile, Evan did not know what to say. Both of these people are hopeless, Evan thought with a speechless look on his face. Seeing Evan's speechless look, Jack grinned. You didn't expect this, did you? It's a special barrier that won't allow you to contact anyone. This basement also has a soundproof formation. So no matter how much you scream, no one will be able to hear you. I will not give you a simple death for what you did that day. I will torture you every day. You will beg me to kill you, but I will keep you alive and break you down bit by bit," Jack said with red eyes like he was possessed by a demon. Evan opened his mouth to say something, but seeing the mad expression on Jack's face, he closed it once again without saying anything. "I can easily leave this stupid barrier using Shadow Walk, but I am also curious about my current power. After increasing the rank of both of my cores, so instead of leaving normally, why not I just test my power against this barrier?" Evan thought and put away the chair that he took out earlier. "You want to keep him here for the rest of my life, right?" Evan said, and he stopped holding back his aura. Jack stopped laughing as he suddenly saw the air inside the barrier start to distort. Adam's eyes also trembled when he felt a terrifying pressure coming out of Evan's body. "Then let me see how you are going to keep me inside this barrier for the rest of my life," Evan said, and a blue aura burst forth from his body. Chapter 342. The air rippled and distorted as Evan completely released his aura. "How is this possible?" Adam asked in a tone full of disbelief when he felt Evan's aura. He could tell that Evan's aura was even more powerful than an A-rank hunter. Adam was sure that even after being an A-rank hunter for a long time, he could not release such strong pressure. As Evan released his aura, Jack's face had already turned pale, and his legs were trembling. Evan didn't pay any attention to Adam and Jack. He clenched his fist and used mana reinforcement. A layer of blue mana appeared around his body, and his terrifying aura became even more powerful. But he didn't stop there and used wind manipulation as a green layer of wind also started covering his body. Evan's eyes shined with cold light as he punched forward without holding back. Rumble. The force behind his punch was so powerful that even before his punch hit the barrier, the ground inside the barrier began to shake. Boom dash. A doomsday-like explosion occurred as Evan's punch collided against the barrier. The ground inside the barrier was completely destroyed and debris flew everywhere. The barrier trapping Evan was not able to handle the force behind his punch and shattered like fragile glass. Jack took a step back and fell on his butt when he saw how Evan broke the A-rank barrier with a single attack. Adam's mouth was also wide open because he knew that he could not break the A-rank barrier with a single attack. Seeing how the barrier shattered like glass, Evan just smirked and was not surprised at all. Now both of his cores are at B+ rank, so it was only natural that he would be much stronger than an A-rank hunter. After coming out of the barrier, Evan looked at Jack, who was looking at him with scared eyes, and showed him a kind smile. Seeing Evan's smile, Jack felt his heart go cold. He quickly got up from the ground wanting to hide behind Adam. But before he could hide, Evan used his newly gained skill Shadow Nail, and stopped him at the same place. Jack's body turned into a statue when the cursed nail hit his shadow. Jack wanted to move his body, but found he lost all control over it, and could not even move a finger. Adam wanted to stop Evan when he saw him throwing a black nail towards Jack, but Evan was much faster than him. "What did you do to him?" Adam asked Evan in a cold voice when he saw Jack standing in the same place like a statue. Evan did not answer Adam and looked at him with an indifferent look. As his eyes met with Adam's eyes, the temperature in the basement started to drop. Suddenly, gravity seemed to increase around Evan as if an invisible force pressed down on him. His movements became sluggish as he fought against the intensified pull. Feeling the change in gravity, Evan was not surprised. After his conflict with Jack, he did a little research about Adam, because he knew he will have to deal with him in future. According to what he found on the internet, Adam is a rare gravity magic user. He will be a good undead for my shadow army, Evan thought when he felt his feet sinking into the ground. "I don't know what trick you used to break that barrier, but I will show the real difference between a B+ and A rank," Hunter Adam said in a chilling voice, and unleashed a wave of intense gravity toward Evan, attempting to pin him to the ground. Evan felt a terrifying pressure boring down on him, and the entire building started to shake. Feeling the pressure, Evan narrowed his eyes. Even with his current strength, he could tell that he will not be able to withstand this kind of pressure for long. "I think you should take a look at." The pressure was not only affecting his outer body, but his internal organs were also feeling the pressure. He is indeed far stronger than normal A-rank hunter because of gravity, magic, Evan thought and took a deep breath. But this kind of pressure is still far from enough to make me pin down on the ground. Temporal velocity. Evan used his skill and charged towards Adam, as if he was not affected by gravity in the slightest. Adam was shocked when he saw Evan rushing towards him without any difficulty, and wanted to stop him. But before he could use any other skill, tens of wind blades formed around him, releasing a very sharp aura. Seeing sharp wind blades, Adam redirected the gravitational forces around him, creating a protective barrier that deflected all wind blades that came towards him. Whoosh! Because of gravitational force, wind blades clashed against the ground, creating deep crevices all over the basement. Evan took advantage of wind blades and appeared before Adam in an instant. Bluish-green aura burst forth from his body, and he punched Adam without holding back. Adam's pupils constricted to the size of needles as he felt the power behind Evan's punch. At the last moment, he used one of his skills, Gravity Constructs, to cover his entire arm in the gravitational force and met Evan with his own punch. Gravity Constructs, the ability to shape and mold gravitational energy into solid constructs or weapons. Using this skill you can create platforms, barriers, or weapons out of pure gravity, using them for offense or defense. The fist covered in a bluish-green aura met with the fist covered in a white aura, and boom dash. The entire building shook as the walls started to collapse. The ground of the basement was completely destroyed, and the building was on the verge of falling down. Ugh! A pain-filled voice escaped from Adam's mouth, and he flew backwards like a broken kite. Boom dash. Adam crashed against the wall of the basement, and the wall completely collapsed upon impact. Evan also slid backwards because of the impact, and noticed his hand was shaking. Evan frowned when he saw this because he could tell that Adam was not using his full power. With the power of an A-rank gravity user, he could easily destroy a large-scale area with a single attack, but he was holding back his power for some reason. But it did not take Evan long to realize why Adam is holding back. He looked at Jack, who was still standing like a statue, and smiled coldly. He does not want to hurt him, Evan thought, and pointed one of his fingers towards Jack. I want to see how strong an A-rank hunter is. Let me give him some motivation so that he will not hold back anymore. Adam stood up, feeling a sharp pain in his arm. A faint tickle of blood was coming out of his mouth, but he was mostly fine. After standing up, he looked in Evan's direction, but his eyes trembled when he saw Evan pointing one of his fingers in Jack's direction. Saint. He wanted to ask Evan to stop, but before he could say anything, a pitch-black bullet came out of Evan's finger and pierced the head of Jack, wiping out his life force in an instant. Chapter 343. Thud. Evan cancelled his Shadow Nail skill, and Jack's lifeless body dropped to the ground. After killing Jack, Evan looked at Adam and found him staring blankly at Jack's body. It was like he was having a hard time believing that his son is dead. Soon Adam's body started to shake, and a white aura started to come out of his body. His eyes turned blood red, and he looked at Evan with hate-filled eyes. Here it comes. Evan narrowed his eyes when he felt Adam's chaotic aura. You bastard, I'll kill you, Adam bellowed, and the force of gravity instantly skyrocketed over an area of over 2 kilometers. Evan felt his surroundings become heavy, and he almost fell to the ground because of the high pressure. Chaos erupted as a high gravitational field descended upon the area. The very fabric of reality seemed to warp and distort, as if the weight of the world itself had multiplied tenfold. Multiple structures in the area groaned under the immense pressure, their foundations cracking and crumbling. The air grew heavy, making it difficult for Evan to breathe as the gravity intensified. Dust and debris were pulled downward with an unstoppable force, swirling in violent spirals. The newly built buildings in the area stood no chance against the onslaught of gravitational power. Seeing the building was about to collapse, Evan immediately used Shadow Shroud and Shadow Wings to protect himself. He also wore his Sunfire armor. Just as he wore the armor, with an ear-splitting roar, the ground quaked as all the buildings in the area of 2 kilometers succumbed to the immense gravitational forces. Walls buckled and collapsed, sending clouds of dust billowing into the air. Evan used mana reinforcements and wind manipulation to avoid falling boulders and walls, while trying to exit the building. Die, you bastard. As he was trying to exit the building, Adam suddenly appeared in front of him with bloodshot eyes and threw a punch at him. Adam's whole body was covered by the gravitational force, and Evan felt mortal danger from the punch. He was still using temporal velocity, so even though Adam suddenly appeared in front of him, Evan still reacted in time. Mind suppression. Suddenly the power behind Adam's punch was greatly reduced, and he showed a pained expression. Ice chains came out of the ground and wrapped around Evan's fist like a glove, and he faced Adam's punch head-on. Boom dash. As their fists clashed, the force of gravity and the surrounding air exploded, sending powerful shock waves across the area. The ice chains covering Evan's fists turned into chunks of ice, and he was pushed back. Even though Evan's physical strength was far greater than Adam's, due to the higher gravitational force in the area, the power behind Evan's attack was greatly reduced, and they were evenly matched. But the force of their collision still accelerated the destruction of buildings. In 2 kilometers of area, the scene was a horrifying symphony of destruction. Windows shattered, their shards cascading downward like crystalline rain. The shrieks and groans of metal echoed through the air as beams and supports gave way under the overwhelming gravitational pressure. Before Evan could regain his balance after being pushed back, he felt a violent aura on his left side. He glanced at it out of the corner of his eye and saw a white blur. "I think you should take a look at." Seeing the white blur, his body tensed up, and he used wind manipulation to its full limit and disappeared from the spot. Just as Evan disappeared, a few meters thick white blade made of gravitational force swept past where he was standing a moment ago. The ground was split open, and wind pressure created by the blade brushed past Evan's face, making it difficult for him to breathe. But he did not care about it. A bluish-green aura burst forth from his body, and he punched in the right direction. Boom dash. His fist collided with Adam's leg, and the violent shock waves swept the area. Boom, 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 boom. In just a few minutes, Adam and Evan clashed with each other for more than 100 times. The building they were in completely collapsed as a dust cloud rose high in the sky. Boom. As the building collapsed, another booming sound echoed out, and a white and black beam shot into the sky, clashing with each other. While fighting, Evan could feel that he is stronger than Adam, but because he has just advanced to the next rank, he cannot control his power properly, and was having a hard time fighting against Adam. But under the pressure of gravity, his body was adapting to his new powers rapidly, and he was improving with each passing second. In the beginning, he was being pushed back each time after clashing against Adam, but in just a few minutes he was able to fight against him without being at a disadvantage. If everything goes on like this, it won't be long before I will be able to kill him, Evan thought as he once again clashed against Adam in the sky. But I don't have much time left. Evan dodged a ball of gravitational energy and backed away from Adam. Adam also backed away after not being able to gain any advantage, even though he was using his gravitational field to its full power. We are still inside the city, and with such a large-scale commotion, hunters will come here in a few minutes. I don't want other people to find out about my powers for now. I wanted to play with you a little longer, Evan said to Adam after backing away. Unfortunately, I'm in no mood to deal with other hunters, so let's end this game now. Just as Evan finished speaking, a 5 meters tall shadow with 2 horns and a head of a bull appeared behind him. Evan smirked when he saw the stunned face of Adam, after seeing the shadow undead of Minotaur, and used his unique skill. Shadow Possession, Chapter 344. Evan backed away and his appearance began to change. In no time, his height increased from 185 centimeters to 3 meters. His black eyes turned blood red in color. 2 dark red horns sprouted from his head, his hands turned into beastly claws, and his body became more muscular. A rune flashed on his sunfire armor, and it adjusted itself according to Evan's new height. Evan felt infinite power welling up inside him as he merged himself with the shadow undead of the B+ rank Minotaur. Feeling the endless power, Evan wasn't able to hold himself back and roared out loud. Roar! Exclamation point. His powerful roar shook the surrounding area, and even Adam, who was blinded by rage, felt every hair on his body stand up to no end. Whoosh dash. Evan flapped his black wings, a black light flashed, and before Adam could react, Evan appeared in front of him. Boom dash. The gravity shield covering Adam's body was instantly destroyed, and Adam found himself flying towards the ground like a broken kite. Boom dash. Adam's body crashed onto the ground with a bone-shattering impact. The earth trembled beneath the force of the impact, sending shockwaves rippling through the surroundings. Debris and boulders were catapulted into the air, transforming the area into a chaotic storm of destruction. Cough! Adam coughed out a mouthful of blood with his internal organs mixed in it. For a moment his vision blurred, and he felt as if he was about to faint. His whole body was in pain, and many of his bones were broken. What the hell happened? Adam's mind was in complete chaos, and he could not understand what just happened. Before he could think of anything else, his instincts roared like never before, his broken body tensed up and his heart turned cold. Mustering up all his strength, he used the force of gravity to change his position. Boom dash. Just as he shifted his position, a person came crashing down from the sky at the same place where he was a moment ago. Ugh. Even though he shifted his position, Adam's body was still blasted away because of the shockwaves. After crashing on the ground, Adam slowly lifted his blood-stained face and looked in the direction where he had been a moment ago, and his eyes met with blood-red eyes of monstrous-looking Evan. Adam's heart turned cold at the sight of those blood-red eyes, and the only thought that came to his mind was to run away. At the thought that he might die here, Adam even forgot about Jack's death and decided to flee immediately. Evan could guess what Adam was thinking just by looking at his panicked face, but he had no intention of letting him go. He already decided to turn him into a shadow undead. The two red horns above Evan's head glowed with power, and a dark red energy ball started to form between them. Adam, who just stood up with difficulty, felt intense mana fluctuation coming from Evan's direction, and his eyes trembled upon seeing a dark red energy ball coming in his direction. Using gravity manipulation, he created a gravity shield at the last second. Boom dash. The dark red energy ball exploded upon hitting the gravity shield. The shield he created at the last second was not able to handle the power of the energy ball, and was destroyed immediately. I think you should take a look at. Ugh. Adam was once again blasted away and crashed against one of the half-destroyed pillars of the collapsed buildings. Evan didn't use his full power in the last energy ball attack, even though he wanted to kill Adam. He didn't want to damage his body badly. After all, he still wanted to turn him into a shadow undead. COUGH**. Adam started to cough out blood after crashing against the pillar. Most of his bones were broken, and he was having difficulty staying conscious. As he started to lose consciousness, he suddenly saw a hand that was buried under the rubble of the destroyed building, with only a small part of it coming out of the crack. The hand obviously belonged to Jack. At the sight of the buried body of his dead son, Adam's heart was once again filled with anger. Seeing his badly injured body, Adam realized that his chances of escaping alive from here are close to none. Even if I am going to die, I will bring this bastard with me. Adam's eyes flashed with madness as a large amount of mana burst forth from his body. Gravity Vortex. Adam bellowed out loud, activating one of his skills, which he didn't want to use because of its instability. Evan was about to finish off Adam when suddenly he felt strong mana fluctuations coming out from Adam's body, and the surrounding environment changed. Evan looked up and saw a black vortex forming 20 meters above Adam's head. He wasn't sure what was happening, but Evan's instincts told him that something bad would happen if he didn't do anything about the vortex. He looked at Adam and saw he was also looking at him with a twisted smile on his face. Whoosh! Suddenly the size of the vortex increased, and it became 1 meter wide. Rumble dash. Just as the size of the vortex increased, the ground began to shake, and from it came out a strong pulling force, which started to pull everything towards it. Dust, debris and stones scattered in the area floated up and were drawn inside the vortex. Evan resisted the pulling force, and saw how a large stone turned into dust after being drawn inside the vortex. As different things went inside the vortex, Evan saw its size started to increase. If this thing continues to grow in size like this, it will affect other areas of the city as well. Ivan narrowed his eyes as he noticed that the vortex's pulling power was increasing along with its size. Suddenly his eyes opened wide and a shocked look appeared on his face. Without caring about the pulling force of the vortex, he took a step forward and dashed in Adam's direction. I need your body, you bastard. Where do you think you are going? Evan came before Adam's body that was being pulled inside the vortex, and shouted while grabbing him by the leg. After pulling back Adam, Evan used wind manipulation to hold him in the same place, and looked at the growing vortex. Do you think this punny vortex will be able to stop me? Evan said, and his aura started to increase. Mana started to gather around his fist, and the silver-colored pendant he was wearing shined in black light. Sprite Sacrifice. Chapter 345. Sprite Sacrifice. Evan used the attached skill of his Sprite Pendant, Sprite Sacrifice Dash. The wearer of the Sprite Pendant can sacrifice 70% of his total mana and 50% of stamina to temporarily increase his strength, agility, and intelligence by 50% for 1 minute. His mana decreased by 70%, but his stamina remained the same. Currently, he was using Shadow Possession, and he has all the abilities of the Shadow Minotaur. After turning into a Shadow Undead, the Minotaur now has unlimited stamina, and since Evan has fused himself with it, he will also have unlimited stamina for a duration of 2 minutes. Even though his mana decreased by 70%, Evan still felt his power increase by leaps and bounds after using Sprite Sacrifice. He looked at the spinning vortex, which was getting bigger and bigger, and shadow energy started to gather around his beastly claw. As he used shadow energy, a powerful aura emerged from his body, completely nullifying the pulling force of the gravity vortex around him. Adam, who was pinned on the ground, felt his heart shuddered when he felt the terrifying power waves coming out of Evan's body. Just what kind of monster is he? Thought Adam, looking at Evan, whose blood-red eyes turned pitch black. The gravity vortex was already 2 meters wide, and it was already affecting the area of around 3 kilometers. It's a good thing that there is no one in this area, Evan thought as the shadow energy covered his entire right arm. When Evan used his spiritual senses earlier, he saw that this area of the city is uninhabited, as most of the buildings in the area are still under construction. Even though his strength had increased greatly, Evan still felt a stinging pain on his arm when he covered it with shadow energy. But this pain was nothing when compared to before, and he completely ignored it. Feeling the boundless power in his arm, Evan's eyes turned sharp. He clenched his fist and punched upwards in the direction of the gravity vortex. Roar! Like the roar of an ancient beast, the black fist force ripped apart the gravitational force and space, and rushed towards the vortex, leaving behind small space fissures. Even though Evan didn't direct the force of his fist towards the ground, Adam still felt a suffocating pressure engulfing his body, and many boulders in the vicinity of 10 meters of area turned into dust. When the fist force came near the vortex, the gravitational field around it became chaotic, and it started to shake. Whoosh! Without being affected by the power of the vortex, the black fist force went inside it. Rumble! Exclamation point. Just as the fist force went inside the vortex, it started to shake, and chaotic energy started to come out of it. Adam felt goosebumps rising all over his body, and a feeling of impending doom engulfed him. He looked at Evan and saw his expressions were still the same, and he wasn't looking concerned about the chaotic energy of the vortex. Because of its chaotic energy, even the mana in the surroundings became unstable. As the unstable vortex reached its breaking point, the air crackled with an electrifying energy. An ominous darkness swept across the land, mingling with the swirling dust and debris. Arcs of crackling mana surged through the atmosphere, adding an ethereal glow to the devastation about to unfold. I think you should take a look at. Evan narrowed his eyes, and his shadow started to shake. Crackle! 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 Soon 3 wolves came out of his shadow and surrounded him. Just as the wolves came out of his shadow, the energies of the vortex became completely unstable. Boom! With an ear-splitting roar, the unstable gravity vortex exploded, its dissonant release of energy ripping through the already battered landscape. The force of the explosion sent shockwaves that reverberated through the area, shaking loose debris from their precarious positions and turning them into deadly projectiles. Because of unstable energies, mana storms were generated in the 5 kilometers of the area. Bolts of pure mana energy lashed out, crackling with intense power, striking boulders and debris with explosive impact. Each impact sent shockwaves rippling through the air, further dislodging fragments of ruin and stirring up the swirling dust. Amidst this cataclysmic scene, the ground heaved and cracked as if the very earth rebelled against the unnatural disturbance. Tendrils of mana energy snaked through the air, swirling like ethereal serpents, causing fluctuations in the gravitational field and amplifying the devastation. All the structures within 5 kilometers of the area crumbled under the combined assault of the gravitational explosion and the arcane might of the mana storm. The roar of destruction filled the air, drowning out all other sounds. Dust clouds rose and merged with the chaotic mana storms. The people who already noticed abnormalities in the area looked from the distance, as the area of more than 5 kilometers was engulfed by the mana storms and chaotic energies. Even without going close to the area, normal people and low-level hunters felt their souls shudder just by looking at the cataclysmic scene in front of them. Since this place was not far away from the Monster Paradise dungeon, all the hunters who were waiting for Evan earlier also arrived there when they felt the powerful energy fluctuations coming from the area. But after seeing the mana storms and the chaotic energies that were destroying everything in that area, no one dared to get close to it. All of them were either B rank or B+ rank hunters. Just by feeling the power of mana storms from that area, they were sure that they will die the moment they enter that hell. While they were all wondering what to do, a red light flashed in the sky, and Margaret stopped a short distance from the mana storm field. Looking at the mana storm and the unstable energies, Margaret narrowed her eyes. She could see that the mana storm would soon reach the residential area of the city. She lifted her hand, and a large amount of mana burst forth from her body. Suddenly the temperature in the surrounding area started to increase, and in just a few seconds a fire barrier covered the entire area, which was affected by the mana storm, stopping it from spreading to other areas of the city. "Who is this bastard who is creating so much ruckus inside the city?" Margaret said after stopping the mana storm, and used her spiritual sense to see the situation inside the mana storm. But when she tried to use her spiritual sense, she found she can't use it because of the chaotic energy. "Let's wait for some time," Margaret muttered when she was not able to use her spiritual sense. After a few minutes, she was finally able to use her spiritual sense. "Let's try again," Margaret said, and once again tired to look for the person who caused all of this. Soon her spiritual sense reached the center of the mana storm, but when she saw what was happening in the center of the mana storm, a strange look appeared on her face. Olivia. In the center of the mana storm, Olivia was beating a man like a madwoman. Chapter 346. Why? Bolts of pure mana energy lashed out, crackling with intense power, and gravitational force in the 5 kilometers of the area was completely chaotic. But amidst this cataclysmic scene, Evan stood without showing an ounce of fear. The duration of his shadow possession already ended, and Evan returned to normal. Adam's whole body was shaking, and instead of mana storm, he was looking at 3 black wolves who were standing around Evan. The bodies of all 3 wolves were crackling with purple lightning, and Adam can't help but gulp down his saliva, feeling their powerful aura. Among 3 wolves, the biggest one was 5 meters tall. A sharp horn was coming out from the center of its forehead, and its aura was that of an A+ rank monster. The other 2 wolves were 4 meters tall. They also had a horn similar to the previous wolf, but the size of their horn was smaller than its, and the aura of both of them was that of an A rank monster. These were the 3 thunder wolves that Evan had stolen during the monster tide of the city of Nephalium. He used his shadow resurrection on them before he left the dungeon, and since their bodies were in excellent condition, his skill didn't fail this time. Bolts of pure mana energy and chaotic gravitational force struck the thick lightning shield covering Evan and Adam. But apart from slightly shaking it, the chaotic energies were unable to do anything to the shield created by the 3 wolves. "Keep it up, Albellu." Evan patted the A+ rank wolf, seeing how easily they stopped the chaotic energies. To name the A+ rank wolf, Evan took Al from Alpha, B from Beta, and Lu from Luna. Yes, he was too lazy to think of a name, so he combined everything he knew about wolves and named him Albellu. As for the 2 other wolves, they were even more pitiful. He didn't even bother to combine anything and named them A1 and A2. I wouldn't be surprised even if an S-rank hunter decided to come here after all this ruckus. Evan thought and decided to leave as soon as possible. He looked at Adam and showed him a kind smile. "Goodbye." "Why?" Before Adam could say anything, he felt a stinging pain in his heart, and a shadow bullet pierced his heart. Adam looked at Evan with a face full of disbelief, not wanting to believe that he is going to die like this. But Evan did not care about his look, and shot one more bullet, wiping out his life force. Shadow. After killing Adam, Evan was about to use Shadow Resurrection when suddenly he saw a dark orange-colored fire barrier, covering the entire area, which was affected by the chaotic energies. Evan narrowed his eyes and placed Adam's body in his shadow storage. "This is definitely the work of an S-rank hunter," Evan muttered when he felt the power of the fire barrier. He looked at the wrecking chaotic energies outside of the lightning shield and noticed their power weakened a lot after all this time. He tried to use his spiritual sense to see who is the person who created the fire barrier, but found he can't use it because of the chaotic energy. "Since I can't use my spiritual senses, The other party will also not be able to use it for the time being. Evan muttered and relaxed a bit. Looks like I will have to use Shadow Walk, using shadow energy to safely escape from here without being detected by anyone. Evan thought and was ready to leave when an idea came into his mind. He pondered for a moment and then nodded his head. I think you should take a look at. Even if I do this, it'll have a lot of flaws. But it's not like I'll lose anything, Evan muttered as his smile turned evil. He closed his eyes and focused on his connection with Illusia. After a minute, a notification flashed before his eyes. You have received the skill, Chameleon Illusion, for 3 days. Seeing the notification, Evan smiled. The next second his appearance started to change. His short black hair became long black hair, his eyes turned ocean blue, and his facial features started to turn femina. In less than a minute, he was looking exactly like Olivia. Evan took out a mirror from his shadow storage, and after seeing his appearance, he nodded his head. It will be fun, Evan said, and asked A1 to bring Jack's body. When A1 brought Jack's body, Evan placed it near him and waited for some time. After 2 minutes, Evan called back Albelu and the other 2 wolves into his shadow storage. The chaotic energy weakened a lot during this time, and he was able to stop it just by using his Shadow Shroud skill. He also noticed that he can now use his spiritual sense as well. But before he could use his spiritual senses, Evan suddenly felt a wave of spiritual energy heading towards his way. It's here, Evan said, and started to kick the body of Jack like a madwoman. When the spiritual power came into contact with his body, Evan showed a panicked expression and tried to hide his face. Of course, he tried to hide, but still left enough room for the other party to take a proper look at his face. Olivia, Margaret muttered with a weird look on her face after seeing what was happening, and quickly made her way towards her. But before she could reach her, she saw a strange thing that looked like a cup noodles box appeared in Olivia's hand, and she disappeared from there along with the person she was beating. Margaret was stunned when she saw this. And when she reached the place where she saw Olivia earlier, she did not find anyone. What kind of artifact was that cup noodles box? Margaret muttered, feeling the box that Olivia took out was an artifact that helped her escape from the fire barrier she created. She looked around her, and seeing the large-scale destruction, a cold light passed through her eyes. Does she think she can escape after causing such a commotion? Margaret muttered and looked in the direction where the Twilight Moon Guild was located. Chapter 347. Using Shadow Walk, Evan disappeared from the place he was standing. He flew up in the sky and stopped just before the fire barrier that was covering the entire area. The shadow energy inside his monarch core churned, and after activating the Shadow Shroud skill to its full limit, he shot towards the fire barrier. Because of the effect of the Shadow Walk, he was easily able to pass through the fire barrier, and the shield created by the Shadow Shroud stopped the heat of the fire. Whoosh dash! Evan came out of the fire barrier and without stopping flew away from there. Because he was using shadow energy, he covered the distance of tens of kilometers very quickly, and was soon far away from the crime scene. I should be safe from that S-ranker now, Evan muttered and stopped using shadow energy. When he stopped using shadow energy, he felt a slight headache and dizziness. Using shadow energy when I don't have much mana is far more taxing than normal. Evan's appearance once again started to change, and in less than a minute, he returned to his original appearance. That S-ranker must be thinking I disappeared using an artifact. Evan laughed and put away the cup noodle box he took out earlier. While flying towards the academy, he opened his status window and looked at his skill growth link. Growth link dash, a skill created using the forbidden knowledge of the Abomincer class. The skill level is very high, so most of the skill's effects are currently sealed. More skill effects will be unlocked as the user increases his core rank. The current effects of the skill. 1. The growth link skill will create a link between you and all of your shadow undeads. The power of shadow undeads who are of the same rank as you or lower rank than you will receive a massive boost in power due to the link. Shadow undeads who are of the higher rank than you will not receive any power boost because of the growth link until you reach at the same rank as them or surpass them. The stronger you are, the stronger your shadow undeads will be. 2. You can take a skill from any of your shadow undead for 3 days. After taking a skill, you will not be able to use this effect for 3 days. Even though the second effect of growth link skill is not as good as the first one, It is still far better than anything I hoped for. After his Monic Core advanced to the B rank, the second effect of his growth link skill was unsealed. Using this effect earlier, he took Illusion's skill and changed his appearance. I may be able to permanently take skills from my shadow undeads in the future. After I raise my core rank, Evan said in a hopeful voice, and was soon able to see the academy. He landed at some distance from the academy, and saw that no one was there. Looks like people who want to ask about the golden lightning will take some time because of the rucks that I created, Evan said, and went inside the academy. While walking towards his room, Evan suddenly felt someone looking at him using a powerful spiritual sense. From the spiritual power, Evan could tell that it was another S-rank hunter. Could it be the principal of the academy? Evan thought without showing any expression on his face. I think you should take a look at. He knew about Nathan, who is an S-rank hunter and the principal of the academy. Apart from him, he cannot think of anyone else who has such a powerful spiritual sense inside the academy. Looks like he doesn't have any intentions of showing up in front of me, thought Evan, when Nathan did not appear in front of him even when he reached in front of his room. Just as Evan entered his room, he felt that the person watching him had stopped using his spiritual senses. At least he is not a stalker, Evan said inwardly when Nathan stopped looking at him. I will have to find another place if I want to turn Adam into a shadow undead. Evan was thinking about turning Adam into a shadow undead after coming back to the academy. But now that he knew Nathan is keeping an eye on him, he can't use his shadow resurrection skill here. Even though Evan could tell Nathan is not looking inside his room, he does not want to take any risk. After coming into his room, Evan went to the bathroom immediately. He was still wearing tattered clothes, and his entire body was covered in dust and blood. I also have to take care of Jack's body, Evan said while cleaning himself. Evan had no intention of turning Jack into a shadow undead. In Evan's eyes, that guy was even weaker than the shadow mantis he had created earlier. The only reason Evan brought Jack's body with him was because he didn't want to leave any evidence there. He killed Jack using his shadow bullet, and during the practical exam, many people saw him using that skill. He was afraid that if he left Jack's body there, some people might recognize his shadow bullet skill. After cleaning himself, he come out of the bathroom and wore his clothes. While wearing clothes, his senses were on full alert. He wanted to make sure that a certain old man is not peeking at him using his spiritual senses. After wearing clothes, he took out the artifact *COUGH* cup noodle box that he used earlier. While preparing cup noodles, Evan pondered about his shadow resurrection skill. After seeing the effect of his growth link skill on the shadow mantis, Evan thought about something. Instead of making normal shadow undead, I should look for rare monsters who are more powerful than normal monsters. I wonder what will happen if I turn monsters who are bound by racial limits into shadow undeads. Will they be able to break their racial limits after becoming shadow undeads? Chapter 348. In Aurora World, there are many monsters who can't improve after reaching their racial limit. For example, after reaching to D+ rank, goblins can't increase their rank anymore. E+ rank is their racial limit. Just like goblins, there are many monsters who are bound by racial limits and can't improve their rank after they reach to a certain rank. Evan was thinking about turning rare monsters who are bound by racial limits into shadow undeads. These rare monsters can be considered extremely powerful among the monsters of the same rank, but they can't reach a high rank because of their racial limit. For example, there is a possibility that a Goblin King may be born among the goblins. The Goblin King is also a goblin, and it is also bound by racial limit. But compared to normal goblins, a Goblin King is far more powerful. Besides being more powerful than normal Goblin Kings are also very good at alchemy. They are born with the knowledge of alchemy, and are far better than human alchemists. But because of their racial limit, Goblin Kings can't utilize their talent of alchemy properly. With their D+ rank, they can make some low-level potions, but to make high-level potions, they need to improve their rank, which is impossible because of their racial limit. But now Evan was thinking about turning them into shadow undead. Because of his growth link skill, he doesn't need to care about their racial limit. As long as he improves his rank, they will be able to reach to higher rank as well. And the Goblin King is just one of the examples. There are many other monsters who are far more powerful than normal monsters, but are bound by their racial limits. After seeing the effect of the growth link skill on the shadow mantis, Evan was thinking about looking for these rare monsters and turning them into shadow undeads. It will not be easy if I want to find rare monsters like Goblin King. Around 1 hour later, Evan suddenly felt some powerful auras coming in the direction of the academy. So they are here, huh? Said Evan without standing up from his bed. 5 minutes later, Evan received a message from Edward. Are they really expecting to get something from me? Evan muttered and stood up. He left his room and went towards Edward's office. *KNOCK**KNOCK**. Coming in front of his office, Evan knocked on the door. Come inches. Just as Evan knocked on the door, he heard an old man's voice that was not Edward's. Excuse me. Evan opened the door and went inside. As soon as he stepped inside, Evan felt many eyes on him. He glanced at the people inside and saw that there were about 10 people inside the room. He recognized some of them like Edward, Jeffrey, Isaac and Julian, but he was unfamiliar with most of them. That bit**h ain't here, Evan thought when he didn't see Olivia, but he did. He cared too much about her and looked at other people present in the room. I think you should take a look at. He must be the stalker who was watching me earlier, thought Evan, looking at the white-haired old man who was sitting on the main seat. Next to the old man sat a man of about 40 years old with silver white hair and violet eyes. He was Sebastian. Margaret was not present in the room. Among all the people present in the room, these two were the only ones that gave Evan a dangerous feeling. With the help of Albelu, he was even confident in taking an A+ rank hunter head-on, but he still was not sure about an S rank hunter. You know why we called you here, right? While he was looking at the people, Evan heard Edward's voice. Hearing Edward, Evan stopped looking at the people in the room and nodded his head. The people who were standing outside of the dungeon told me about golden lightning. Then do you know what was that lightning? It appeared after you went inside the dungeon, a man with short spiky hair asked. Other people present in the room also looked at him, wanting to know if he knew anything about the lightning. Evan looked at the man who just spoke and saw it was an A rank hunter from the Hunter Association. Sorry, but I don't know anything about that lightning, Evan said while shaking his head. There is no way he is going to tell them what happened inside the dungeon. When they saw Evan shaking his head, some people had expressions of disappointment on their faces, while others frowned. Most of the people present in the room already expected this outcome. Nathan had already told them that it was a natural phenomenon, so the chances of Evan being related to the golden lightning were already slim. But there were still some people who were not satisfied with Evan's answer. Do you have any proof that you are not related to that lightning? The spiky hair man spoke once again. That lightning went inside the dungeon through the portal, and you were the only one who was present inside the dungeon at that time. Do you have any proof that you are not related to that lightning? The spiky-haired man spoke once again. It went inside the dungeon through the portal, and you were the only one inside the dungeon at that time. Hearing him, Evan looked at him as if he was looking at an idiot. Edward also frowned when he heard the man. I think you are being unreasonable in asking for proof, Alan, said Edward. How can he have proof when he didn't even know about lightning before coming out of the dungeon? I am not being unreasonable, Edward Allen said in a calm voice. I am just being cautious. You also know what the Dark Guild did in the Nephilim city. What if this matter is also related to them? You felt the power of that golden lightning, right? If this lightning is related to them, then you should know they can easily destroy this entire city with that kind of power. Hearing Alan, the expressions of many people present in the room changed. Evan laughed inwardly when he saw this because he could already guess what this guy is going to say next. Chapter 349. You are saying he is working for the Dark Guild? A tall, bulky-looking man asked while looking at Evan with sharp eyes. I am not sure, but the Dark Guild has been very active lately, so we can't rule out this possibility, said Alan, still looking at Evan, who's standing with the same indifferent expression on his face. Edward wanted to say something, but stopped when he saw Nathan shaking his head. After hearing Alan, most of the people present in the room looked at Evan with suspicious-filled eyes. If you don't have any proof that you don't have any connection with that golden lightning, then you will have to come with me to the Hunters Association for a proper investigation, Alan said to Evan, and waited for his response. Evan didn't say anything for a long time after listening to Alan, and just kept looking at him with the same expressionless face. After a minute when everyone thought he would say nothing, he finally opened his mouth and said, "Isn't the fact that you're still alive proof that I have nothing to do with that golden lightning?" The quiet room became even quieter after Evan said that. "What do you mean?" Alan asked while narrowing his eyes. He was really pissed off because of Evan's behavior. First, he didn't wait for them after coming out of the dungeon and returned to the academy, and now he is threatening him. If it wasn't for the fact that he is inside the academy and there are so many other big shots out here, he would have already attacked on Evan for saying something like this. "Are you retarded?" Evan didn't care how Alan was looking at him and said with a sneer on his face, "If I had that golden lightning, I would have already killed you for talking such nonsense." "You bastard." Alan's face turned red from anger when Evan called him retarded. "You're suspecting me of working for the Dark Guild, right?" Evan ignored the red-faced Alan and asked the people in the room. But he did not wait for their response and pointed to a man in the room. "If you think I am working for the Dark Guild, then you can ask him whether I am working for them or not." They all looked in the direction Evan was pointing, and was stunned when they saw a silver white-haired man. Sebastian was enjoying the show when he saw Evan suddenly pointing his finger towards him. When Sebastian saw this, he was not surprised because the moment Alan suspected Evan of working for the Dark Guild, he already expected Evan to use him. "This old man will not be ungrateful, right?" Evan thought to himself while looking at Sebastian. The Silver Star Guild benefited a lot because of the information he gave to Valerie about the Dark Guild. Since Sebastian is the guild master of the Silver Star Guild, it is quite clear that he knew who was the person who informed Valerie about the dungeon outbreak, and the Dark Guild's plan to attack the city of Naflium. Sebastian looked at Evan was who pointing at him. Since he has so much information about the Dark Guild, it is quite clear he definitely has some connection with them. Sebastian thought, "I think you should take a look at." According to what Valerie told me, he didn't know about the Dark Guild until after she told him about them when he killed Carlos. This means he got involved with the Dark Guild after killing Carlos. Sebastian thought for a few more seconds and sighed inwardly. He could guess that Evan got involved with the Dark Guild because of killing Carlos, and since it was because of Valerie he killed Carlos, he could not just ditch him away. He is right. I can confirm that he is not involved with the Dark Guild, Sebastian said, breaking the silent atmosphere of the room. Most of the people were stunned when they heard Sebastian, and wondered why he was speaking for Evan. Alan, who was ready to pounce at Evan, was also stunned. Evan sighed in relief when Sebastian confirmed he is not involved with the Dark Guild, and looked at Alan with a sneer on his face. "I think this is enough to satisfy you, right?" Alan wanted to say this is not enough, but when he remembered Sebastian is an S-rank hunter, he could only shut his mouth. "Can I leave now?" Evan asked when he saw Alan was not saying anything. "Before you go, can you tell us what's wrong with your core rank?" Suddenly Isak asked. "According to data you were a D+ rank hunter when you entered the dungeon, but when you came out you become a B+ rank hunter." Hearing Isak, the eyes of all the people present in the room flashed, and they once again looked at Evan. Evan didn't say anything after listening to Isak, and took out his hunter card from his storage ring. "Here," he said, throwing his card towards Isak. "According to my card, I'm still a D+ rank hunter." Isak caught Evan's hunter card and was confused when he heard him, but suddenly a light bulb appeared above his head, and he understood what Evan is trying to say. "You mean you were a B+ rank hunter even before you entered the dungeon, but that guard registered you as a D+ rank hunter because of your hunter card?" Evan nodded his head. Only an idiot would enter a B rank dungeon while being a D+ rank hunter. Isak nodded his head and threw back Evan's hunter card. Evan caught his hunter card and put it away. "Can I leave now?" Evan asked once again. Alan was about to say something once again, but before he could say anything, Nathan nodded his head. "You can go back." "Thank you, Principal." Evan thanked Nathan and turned around to leave. "Can I talk to you for a moment?" Just as he turned around, Sebastian stood up and asked. Evan paused for a moment before nodding his head and left the room with Sebastian. Chapter 350. Evan followed Sebastian, wondering what he wanted to talk to him. Soon they left the building and reached the Academy's garden. Since it was daytime, very few people were present there. "Your acting is quite good suddenly," Sebastian said as they entered the garden. Evan raised an eyebrow when he heard him, but did not say anything. "You know there are many strange things in this world." Sebastian stopped walking and looked at him. And one of them is skills. Have you forgotten that there are many people in this world who have skills that they can use to easily tell whether someone is telling the truth or a lie? T. When Evan heard Sebastian, he couldn't help but curse himself. He actually forgot that it is not rare for people to have this kind of skill. He looked at Sebastian and saw he was looking at him with a calm smile. What do you want? Evan directly asked him because he knew there must be a reason Sebastian did not expose him earlier. Sebastian rolled his eyes when he heard Evan. I don't need anything from you. When Evan heard him, he was surprised and looked at him with a suspicious look on his face. Don't look at me like this. I did not expose you because of Valerie, Sebastian said when he saw Evan was looking at him suspiciously. What do you mean? You saved her from Carlos, right? This can be considered repayment for that, Sebastian said, and then a serious look appeared on his face. Even though I haven't exposed you, there are a few things I'd like to know to make sure I haven't made the wrong decision. Evan looked at Sebastian's serious face for a while before nodding. What do you want to know? First, tell me, what was that golden lightning? Hearing Sebastian's question, Evan shrugged his shoulders. To be honest, I don't know what that golden lightning was. I was just advancing to the next rank when it came through the portal and fell on me. At first, I thought I am going to die, but that lightning didn't harm me and disappeared after touching my body. Sebastian's eyes opened wide when he heard Evan because he could tell that he was telling the truth. You were completely unharmed after getting struck by that lightning? Sebastian asked with a shocked look on his face. He still remembers how he felt fear from the depth of his soul after seeing that lightning. Evan could understand what Sebastian was thinking, so he just nodded his head. How is that possible? Sebastian muttered in a low voice, not wanting to believe on Evan. I bet even an S-rank hunter would have died if he had been hit by that lightning. What else do you want to know? Evan asked after answering about the golden lightning. Sebastian took a deep breath to calm down and looked at Evan with a weird gaze, wondering how he is still alive after getting struck by that lightning. But he soon calmed down and asked another question that shocked Evan. Were you the one who killed Adam? I think you should take a look at. Evan looked at Sebastian with his eyes wide open. Sebastian smirked when he saw Evan's shocked look. How do you know that it was Adam who died there? I even destroyed his body before I left. Evan knew it was useless to lie, so instead of lying, he asked the question that was most important to him. The gravity in that area was completely distorted, and in a straight city, only Adam was the one who could use such powerful gravity-related skill, Sebastian said, appearing calm on the outside, but inside he was screaming loudly. Adam was one of the strongest A-rank hunters. Due to his rare gravity element, even an A+ rank hunter could not kill him easily. But now Evan was saying he was the one who killed him. If it weren't for the fact that Sebastian could tell that Evan wasn't lying, he wouldn't have believed him. He is just a B+ rank hunter. How could he kill him? Evan was unaware of the shock that Sebastian was feeling, and nodded his head when he heard him. I thought I had left something behind that belonged to Adam, which is why they found out that Adam was killed. Evan thought and shook his head. Do you want to ask anything else? Evan asked after confirming that he did not leave anything behind. Sebastian was speechless when he saw Evan's casual behavior. Tell me why you killed him, and you better have a good reason for it, Sebastian said in a serious voice, feeling tired for the first time since becoming an S-ranker. He wanted to kill me, so I killed him, Evan said casually, ignoring Sebastian's serious look, and told him everything from the beginning. First, he told him about his conflict with Jack, and how Adam got involved in it. So they wanted to keep you as a prisoner, but you were far stronger than they thought. So you broke the barrier they created and then killed them, Sebastian asked in a dazed voice. Right, Evan nodded his head. Sebastian opened his mouth to ask how he killed Adam, despite being a B+ rank hunter, but closed it because he felt it would be too much. Every hunter has his own secrets and he understands it very well. Suddenly Adam remembered something, and he looked at Evan with a strange look. When Margaret went over there to see what was happening, she saw Olivia in the middle of the mana storm. Could it be? Sebastian didn't finish his sentence, but from Evan's twitching mouth, he already knew he was the one who framed Olivia. Does he have a strange fetish of changing his appearance while committing a crime? Sebastian thought, but then shook his head. Did you frame her because of what she did to you? Since Evan told him why Jack wanted to capture him, it was clear that he told him about Olivia as well. I am planning to kill her tomorrow, so I thought it would be a nice farewell gift. Evan replied to Sebastian with a warm smile on his face. So you framed her because you are planning to kill what? Sebastian shouted out loud when his brain finally registered Evan's words. This is the end of this video. Thank you guys for listening. Hope you enjoyed and wish you wonderful rest of the day. The silent raptors out.